The scene opens with a boss barking orders. Pack it up, people. Quitting time is finally here and everyone is sprinting for the exit. Meanwhile, our main character downs a mysterious drink. Leaving so soon, a coworker asks, wondering if he wants to grab dinner. No can do, he smiles. He has big plans. The coworker laughs, begging to know what kind of secret fuel keeps him running. How does he survive these brutal shifts without looking like a zombie? The ultimate cheat code: over-the-counter vitamins. He pops them like candy every single morning. Seriously, are people sleeping on these magical buffs? Meet Park Hanul, 22 years old. Back in his military days, he discovered a hilarious glitch in his own body. It started when a bunkmate tossed him some basic supplements. After surviving a hellish training day just 2 tiny pills completely erased his exhaustion. A single omega-3 capsule. Pure mental clarity. Later he hops off a bus, dreaming of a sweet iced coffee. But wait, someone is burning holes into the back of his head. A cute girl. She looks incredibly nervous. She approaches blushing, saying she has never told this to anyone before. Hanul completely freezes. Is this a romance webtoon? A love confession? Heart-pounding, he asks how he can help. Plot twist, it is a total scam. She pitches a wildly sketchy cult. Walking away, she claims she is totally innocent and introduces herself as Han, Uni. Utterly betrayed, he scurries away. Have a nice life, he mutters, silently cursing these ridiculous fake religious nuts. Cults are a massive sore spot. Why? Because his own father once proudly announced his grand destiny to brew a divine miracle elixir. The man actually quit his job, ran to the mountains, and chugged down the most toxic-looking potions imaginable. Shockingly, he just ended up in the emergency room repeatedly, finally desperate for real magic. His dad vanished into the wild, promising to bring back supreme holy power. That was 20 years ago. Hanul was only 2, now stocking up on his precious gummy vitamins. He sighs. His poor mother went through absolute hell after that idiot left. Honestly, if his dad just took normal pharmacy supplements, he might actually still be alive. But as Hanul exits the pharmacy, the air shifts. He looks up. A colossal glowing magic circle is floating in the sky. The entire street freezes in utter confusion. While the crowd stares like clueless NPCs, Hanul uses his brain. That definitely was not there 5 minutes ago. It is not a hologram and definitely not a rogue drone. Aliens, maybe, before he can guess reality breaks. An apocalyptic earthquake rips through the street. People completely lose their minds, screaming in terror. Yet Hanul remains chillingly calm, analyzing the absolute chaos. Suddenly, the asphalt shatters right at his feet. A grotesque demonic hand claws out of the concrete. A nightmare creature drags its ugly body from the abyss. A literal dungeon monster, towering over him, the beast locks its glowing eyes on our boy. His survival instincts scream at him to flee. But then a bizarre sensation sparks in his chest. A system window aggressively pops up. Nutrient reserves fully activated. Even the dumb demon pauses at the mechanical voice echoing in the air. Divine energy supplied. Physical stats boosted. In a split second, Hanul's ordinary senses explode into superhuman clarity. Time practically stops. The monster viciously lunges, but to Hanul, it moves like a turtle. He casually sidesteps. What the heck is this speed? Mind blown, he realizes his daily vitamin obsession might have actually awakened a hidden cheat skill. Either way, he has the stats to run away safely. But wait. He looks around. Innocent people are getting slaughtered by a whole army of demons. Heroic rage boils in his veins. If he has this overpowered buff, he has to use it. Zero hesitation. He charges the beast. With one beautifully animated roundhouse kick, he launches the massive demon into the air. They both dive for a discarded steel club, but Hanul's agility is unmatched. Bam! He smashes the weapon straight into the monster's ugly face. Honestly, it was incredibly weak. No time for a victory dance, though. A screaming horde swarms him. But Hanul is completely in the zone. He becomes a one-man army, crushing skulls with terrifying precision. In seconds, the street is paved with monster loot. Panting, he looks up, and his blood runs cold. A raid boss demon 3 times the size of the minions is glaring absolute daggers at him. It just realized who wiped out its entire squad. Drunk on vitamin power, Hanul smirks. Maybe this big guy is a complete pushover too. But before he can even blink, the boss blitzes him, a terrifying splash of crimson blood. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ruined city, pure nightmare fuel continues. A trembling survivor desperately asks what their game plan is if the horde finds them. His buddy, sweating bullets, screams that they need to barricade the doors. right now. But crash, a mangled body bursts through the glass window, bowling them over. Paralyzed by fear, they look up. A terrifying demon is standing right inside. One guy completely breaks down, crying on his knees, praying for a hero, anyone to save his skin. Meanwhile, in another spot entirely, someone takes a deep cinematic drag of a cigarette. Ding. The system chimes. Again, elixir consumed. Out of absolutely nowhere, our boy comes launching in like a missile. He delivers a drop kick so savage, it sends the type. Demon rocketing through the sky, he lands in a perfectly badass pose. Adrenaline is practically overflowing from his veins. Park is completely hyped up, ready to fafta. Throw hands. He flashes a cocky smirk. All right, ugly. Round 2. He yells. Before sprinting forward and planting a massive right hook straight into the monster's mug, he's 17 planning 17, unleashes an absolute hurricane of fists. He is giving this thing zero room to breathe. But the demon isn't done yet, lunging right at his throat. Luckily, Park completely disrespects the attack, dodging it with embarrassing ease. I've got stamina for days, baby, he roars, absolutely rocking the monster's jaw with another heavy blow. Then, disrespect level maximum, he grabs its ugly head and literally pavement kisses it into the asphalt. The beast goes down. Park finally takes a much-needed breath. He crow-saw, catches himself, wondering if that nicotine hit was secretly an epic buff. Deep down, he prays his mom is staying safe. But, just when he thinks he won the boss fight, the demon pulls a phase 2. It roars, palming Park's head like a basketball, and aggressively slam dunks him into the process. Concrete Park groans, stars spinning in his vision. But his inner main character energy kicks in, and he catches the demon's fist with pure, stubborn willpower. Digging deep into his remaining HP, he buries a desperate punch right into its gut. Finally, the demon crumbles like a wet noodle, completely running on empty. Park hits the dirt, his stamina bar flashing red. He cannot move a single muscle, but even from his comfy spot on the pavement, he realizes the nightmare is still going strong. The random NPCs around him are totally trapped. He tries to hit the stand-up button, but his body straight up refuses the input. He is officially out of juice. Seriously, what horrible admin spawned these glitchy mobs just to ruin a perfectly good day? A sick feeling of helplessness washes over him. He silently begs the universe for a timeout. Right in front of him, a monster violently snatches up a totally helpless dude. And poor Park is nada, stuck on spectate mode. Just as things look incredibly bleak. Flash. A mysterious player drops from the sky, flexing what looks like a magical post-it note. This new character starts spitting out incantations. Boom. In a single frame, half the demon mob is completely deleted from the server. Park is absolutely flabbergasted. Who the heck is that? A literal goddess. A super pretty girl casually strolls up, dropping a completely out-of-place compliment on his once-time street brawling skills. Killing a demon without any tutorial levels. Color me impressed, she says smoothly, giving him a hardcore ocular pat-down. Just what kind of player are you? Park's brain is still buffering. Getting zero response, she steps right into his personal space, declaring she needs to run a quick diagnostic. She demands his hand. Park is extremely lost and naturally hesitates. But before he can even blink, some wacky dollar tractor beam spell violently yanks his arm over. She scans his palm, and her confident smile instantly drops to 0. Whatever his stats showed, it definitely wasn't normal. Not holy, not demonic, not even a human build. It was a total game-breaking bug. She looks like she just saw a ghost. A wild mix of pity and hardcore resolve flashes in her eyes. It really sucks that this random dude got cursed with a glitched class, but she absolutely cannot let this walking nuke roam free. She immediately starts charging up a sealing spell. But before the cast finishes, Park hits her with a super genuine thank you. He admits that without her dropping in, his run would have ended in a game over right there. He's practically glowing with awkward, heartfelt gratitude. Suddenly, her casting animation completely freezes. She stares blankly at this unexpectedly polite puppy dog of a guy. What an absolute tragedy, she thinks, that such pure golden retriever energy has to be nerfed into the ground. But a job is a job. Without dropping a single word of warning, she violently chucks a sketchy pill right down his throat. Reflexively gulping it down, his face immediately crunches up. Bleg. What the heck? It tastes like hot garbage. He complains, completely bewildered. She hits him with the cold truth. It was a highly specialized magic blocker, usually reserved for a rabid, uncontrollable beast-tier enemies. But for his glitched stats, it's the only patch that will keep him from exploding. His weird, broken attributes would eventually crash his entire existence and take out the neighborhood with him. It's gonna suck, she admits, but it's for the more greater good. She hits him with a dramatic plea not to be a hater, tossing in a cliche about reuniting if the plot demands it. Our mysterious magic girl completely ghosts him. She moonwalks out of the scene without even dropping her username. Park faceplants back into the rubble, dazed. His brain does Olympic gymnastics trying to process this madness. Why force feed him a debuff pill? What was all that? Edgy talk about him being irregular. Was his strange status screen finally backfiring? Spitefully peeling himself off the ground, he heavily grumbles that, without those powers, he'd literally be a chalk outline right now. There is no way he's letting some random admin take away his cheats. Wasting exactly 0 seconds, he raids the nearest convenience store. He chugs a cheap vitamin drink like a maniac. Ding. The system enthusiastically announces a successful buff. Right then and there, our boy makes a vow. If he's got a broken build, he's gonna totally exploit it to survive this insane new reality. Fast forward, and his living room looks like a pharmacy exploded. Even gross hangover cures are jacking up his mana pool. But his brain keeps lagging back to that mysterious girl. Her talk about a walking disaster is living rent-free in his head. That awful pill. It must be messing with his code somehow. But who has time to overthink? Stuffing his pockets with random health potions, he prepares to go rescue his no-go mom. Buzz. His phone aggressively vibrates. An emergency broadcast. Apparently, the server has officially merged with hell. The alert violently screams at everyone to download some sketchy new app to avoid getting eaten. He pops open the App Store and squints at the absolute train wreck of a title, Special Precautions number 24. Wow. He deadpans to himself. They clearly threw this garbage together overnight. The user interface is literally a war crime. Whatever Park mutters hitting download, he scans his ID, and boom, the app lights up. Identity confirmed. Rerouting. Suddenly glowing holographic runes explode across his vision. What the actual heck? Park yelps frantically trying to process the sci-fi madness. Then that robotic voice chimes in. Spiritual physique detected. Commencing total body scan. Park flinches. That crazy girl was right. This must be the so-called anomaly she mentioned. And right on cue, absolute agony rips through his veins. Why now? Oh right. That sketchy medicine is kicking in. Desperate, he chugs, a random hangover drink to survive the pain. Shockingly, it works like a charm, but the system isn't done yet. A new alert pops up. Scan complete. Detected substance, blue void. Attribute wood. Park just blinks. Blue. Void wood. Did he just awaken as a magic tree? Getting pure liquid energy from that stuff is absurdly rare. It is literally called Azure Fuel, a condensed elixir packing the raw, untamed energy of the entire planet. Meanwhile, our clueless main character just waits. That legendary blue energy was actually an ingredient in that shady pill he swallowed. And by pure comic luck, his cheap hangover drink completely neutralized the toxic side effects. Now only the overpowered celestial energy remains in his system. Because of this ridiculous fluke, Park's body hits the ultimate jackpot. Suddenly, he feels like he is roasting inside an oven. Burning up. He figures he should just sweat out the fever. But the internal heat is driving him totally crazy. He desperately searches for a way to cool down his boiling insides. A light bulb goes off. What if he just sits like those masters in cheap martial arts, movies, and meditates? Surprisingly striking, that cheesy lotus pose is ridiculously comfortable. He decides to just chill like a Zen master until the fever breaks. Park heavily sighs, complaining about his painfully average, totally mundane body. But then the system drops the final verdict. Result: a perfectly trash-tier body overloaded with divine wood energy. Park realizes that girl probably drugged him, thinking he was some dangerous anomaly. What is up with all this tree stuff anyway? The best part? The lethal poison is completely gone. Did the system scan somehow magically purify his blood? Whatever happened, he is just glad he will not be executed for being a glitch in the Matrix. Suddenly, the system screen shifts to a glaring red alert. A serious-looking dude broadcasts to all of Korea, solemnly declaring that every insane word he is about to say is the absolute truth. 10,000 years ago, the world was a complete mess. Terrifying monsters stomped across the globe while extraterrestrial beings crashed down from the mass. Stars to conquer Earth. Humanity was basically treated like disposable trash. But amidst that apocalyptic nightmare, a handful of lucky humans awakened spiritual bodies. A legendary power beyond imagination. This divine upgrade granted mere mortals the eternal lifespans of monsters. It marked the dawn of a legendary era where humanity could fight back with godlike magic. These awakened warriors were dubbed monks. To seal the dimensional rifts, they bravely sacrificed their own lives, locking the heavenly gates so ordinary humans could actually survive. These epic heroes faded into myths, and bedtime stories whispered through the generations. They became the silent guardians of the gates watching over humanity's peace. Or, well, they did, until a few hours ago. Now, all remaining awakened monks are being deployed to patrol the streets and protect the public. Oh, and by the way, these superpowered humans are officially licensed, meaning they now have full authority to bust heads legally. Meanwhile, Park is totally ignoring the apocalyptic news, staring blankly at his system window. Are these his new skills? Pop, pop. Dozens of skill windows flood his vision. He realizes the glowing spots correspond exactly to his newly unlocked abilities, syncing perfectly with the boiling heat pulsing through his veins. The system hologram even mirrors his cheesy meditation pose. Normally, some poor soul would have to train for ages just to spark a tiny bit of aura in one of their cores. And only after awakening all three could they even dream of starting the basic Earth Path training. Up until yesterday, Park thought religion and magic were utter garbage, but here he is aggressively inhaling like a mythical Taoist master. He shifts deeper into his meditation, completely dumbfounded. Why is this so ridiculously easy? Even with a so-called spiritual, body-gathering mana in the three cores is supposed to be brutal. It usually takes absolute geniuses, months or even years. Yet without even trying, his mind slips into a profound state of absolute emptiness, completely tuning out the entire world. Just like that, Park accidentally takes his first overpowered step toward becoming a monk. But when his eyes snap open, waking up in a literal jungle, Park blinked at the plants wrapping around him. How long was he out? His phone was completely dead naturally. He desperately hunted for a clock to check the time. Wait, June 22nd. His jaw dropped. 100 whole days had passed while he was just meditating. Talk about an extreme nap. Later, taking a fresh shower, he celebrated the miracle of running water. But things were super weird. His wounds poof gone. His appetite non-existent. He didn't even lose any muscle. Instead, he felt absolutely jacked, seeing his phone finally charging. He figured catching up on the news was smart. But remembering the giant dome-shaped barrier outside, and those massive holes spitting out monsters. Yeah, he was definitely in a mega danger zone. Boom. An earthquake shook the room. Only, it wasn't a natural disaster. It was a horrifying beast casually strolling outside. Park panicked. What on earth was that nightmare? Demons swarmed the neighboring buildings like angry ants. Time to pack up and run right now. But of course, 0 bars on his phone. Calling emergency services was a total bust. His breathing technique had kept him alive for 100 days in a lotus pose. Suddenly, a ping echoed. A system screen popped up. Welcome, Park. It nagged about no network connection ruining some features. Typical offline gaming problems. He stared at the blue screen, praying for a usable cheat code. The only tab working was his basic profile. Oh, and a weird menu showing 2 available charm copies. The system casually dropped that he had 3 usable charms. Perks of his user stats, apparently. The first skill. Soft Steps. A supposedly epic 9th rank special magic. Park scoffed. Too easy. Was that it? He felt absolutely 0 magical changes in his body. He took one tiny step and... smash. He face-planted straight into the wall. Okay, that special magic was painfully real. Rubbing his nose, he checked the other wild abilities. One was an inventory buff for heavy lifting. The other, a literal tornado of blinding light. Park grinned. Should he spam the tornado on the roof? Wait, bad idea. The monsters would treat him like a giant bug zapper. Plus, he had that copied breathing technique. The system noted that training goes from 1 to 10 stars. Hit star 5. And boom, nature techniques. Park's eyes sparkled. An upgradable cultivation system. He was basically the main character now. His dreams shattered instantly. 10 whole years, just to raise 1 single star. He'd be an old man in 70 years before casting anything. Whatever time to check his current star level. To measure his power, he channeled energy into his hands. The rings appearing would show his true rank. He squeezed his eyes shut and focused his ki. Each ring meant another star level. His jaw hit the floor at the result. But no time for shock. A monster suddenly lunged at him. A mutant tiger crashed through his door. Claws flashed, tearing right into his poor shoulder. Time for a desperation move. He remembered a legendary ancient skill. The absorption method. A vampiric cheat code to steal a beast's life force. Park forcefully activated his own rip-off version. Boom. He actually triggered a 6th level art. The tiger was instantly drained and defeated, a soothing green aura wrapped around him. Talk about getting saved by pure plot armor, but the backlash sent him crashing to the floor. The system chimed. Muscle mass increased. Blood stabilized. Red blood cell production in overdrive. A wicked green glow flared to life in Park's eyes. Staring at his glowing hands, he was utterly baffled. An insane surge of power buzzed through his veins. Draining that oversized kitty had basically acted like the ultimate protein shake. Perfect. With this much mana, he wouldn't pass out from using his flashy light tornado. Glancing down, weird magical plants were suddenly growing out of the dead tiger's corpse. Gross. Definitely loot drops. He harvested the strange sprouts, realizing he could only use one at a time. If he milked the monsters for energy before killing them, he could totally farm infinite stats. Still, playing it safe was best. Time to turtle up and survive until the rescue squad arrived. Staring at his glowing hands, he figured his flashy light tornado skill would come in handy. But 0 seconds later, another ugly mob charged right at his face. No time to think. He spammed the skill again, slamming a glowing fist straight into the monster's jaw. Honestly, who had time to chill? He needed to get up, shoot his light tornado like a flare, and scream for an SOS. But nope. The universe hated him. Every single time more of these freaks spawned. And for the 100th time, he just beat them into pulp. Yet, the monster respawn rate was absolutely ridiculous. Eventually, our exhausted hero dragged himself up to the building's rooftop. He froze, his jaw dropping to the floor. Why? Because an absolute unit of a boss monster was chilling right next to him. Park seriously questioned his own sanity. And just to make things worse, a backup dancer monster spawned right behind his back. Screw it, it was do or die. Park yelled a battle cry and charged straight at the colossal beast, firing up his trusty light tornado. Cut to a bit later, a random voice echoed from the sky, yelling for our guy to reveal himself. Spotting. A dude literally floating in midair. Park frantically waved his arms from below. The flying guy scoffed, asking why on earth Park was standing there like a statue. Didn't he have a flying talisman or at least a jump boost? Park awkwardly admitted he only had the 3 measly tags from before. Mr. Floating snorted, calling him totally pathetic. He ordered Park to reach out, mocking our boy for being slow and totally deaf. But Park just casually pointed out the massive monster creeping up behind the guy. In less than a heartbeat, the dude flicked a talisman, one-shotting the beast like it was absolutely nothing. He glared at Park, warning him not to test his patience and to grab his hand. He demanded to know what kind of suicidal newbie wanders into a high-danger red zone. Park opened his mouth to explain his tragic backstory, but the guy totally cut him off. He literally did not care, so our boy just swallowed his pride and said thanks. Finally stepping out of the barrier, Park nearly had a heart attack seeing 1,000,000 times. Missed calls from his mom, but hey, being stuck in a nightmare dungeon for 100 days would do that. Still, he was just thrilled his family wasn't swallowed by the apocalypse. A lot of crazy stuff had gone down in the real world, and he wondered just how wild things had gotten. Fast forward, our boy was chilling in a fancy agency, building sweet-talking his mom on the phone. He totally downplayed surviving hell, claiming he just got a little lost but found his way back home, promising to see her in a couple of days. A random officer asked if he was done chatting, and our hero nodded, letting out a massive sigh of relief that his family was safe and sound. Suddenly, a dramatic dude burst into the room like a diva, staring at Park like he was an alien. The officer quickly introduced the newcomer, explaining he was an elite disciple from the regional unit. But Mr. Diva literally ignored the intro rudely, ordering the poor officer to scram immediately. And yeah, he hit him with the classic, "Do not make me repeat myself" line, once alone. The arrogant guy demanded to know if Park learned the Ascendance art before his heavenly gate even opened. Park blankly replied that he absolutely had not. The guy sneered, questioning if a scrub like Park was even worthy of waking. His sleeping master Park just stared at this clown with deadpan eyes. Suddenly, a glowing blue system screen popped up. The snobby guy flexed, asking if the newbie could read the word Ascendant, bragging about the 9 legendary high ranks. He gloated that most awakened players were just basic disciples, sometimes called saints, while the mundane rank was top tier. But he, of course, was a recognized genius, officially ranked as an Ascendant by his grandmaster. He proudly stated that age meant absolutely nothing in this world. Whoever grinded the most training points was the senior period. Therefore, newbie Park better start bowing down and serving his new senior. As per the absolute rules of society, Park blinked and innocently asked if Ascendant was actually the lowest rank and what rank his master even held. This totally triggered the guy who barked at him to shut his clueless mouth. He snapped that Park was lucky to be born with a spiritual physique. And if he didn't want to get wrecked, he better beg for the protection of his amazing superiors. He dramatically threatened that there were no second chances and one more disrespectful word would end him, but Park casually fired back, mentioning the rule against changing masters 3 times. He cheekily suggested the guy only followed his master because he liked his pretentious way of talking. Oh boy, that completely shattered the guy's fragile ego into a million pieces. He was fuming. But right at that juicy moment, the system screen updated, flashing our protagonist's actual overpowered stats. Park smirked, reminding the sweating guy about that whole respect your senior rule. Standing up tall, Park tapped his High Saint badge and told his new junior to serve him well. Cut to later, the arrogant guy was throwing a massive temper tantrum to his master. He whined about treating a providing the side. Total newbie, like a senior, screaming about how he had practically handed over his super secret technique. Throwing a fit, he cried that he felt like an idiot bowing down to a guy who fought like a street bandit, but his master just shut him down bluntly, stating Park's power level was simply astronomical. And that, my friends, is how you become a high saint. His master rubbed his chin. It must be his unique constitution. But the other guy scoffed. If that were true, he would definitely have an irregular physique. This just ticked the guy off even more. Are you seriously going to keep spouting nonsense? Are you implying this kid got stuck with a trash-tier mundane physique like us? Does this mean his growth rate is completely broken? Honestly, even the wise master was absolutely clueless about it. Finding a human perfectly aligned with nature was basically impossible. Humans crawled out of the oceans and conquered the earth. We tamed roaring fires to survive the freezing cold and bent solid iron to our will. Sure, living things share traits, but our fundamental natures clash hard. The master figured the special report issued to assist her was simply because this kid was an impossibly rare anomaly. If you get it, keep your mouth completely shut about his cultivation method. They are sending a highly volatile elixir for when his breathing finally stabilizes. Watching this absolute circus unfold, the master could only marvel at the sheer absurdity. The legendary Starwind only blessed those born of nature. How had he never heard of such a cheat-level talent? Meanwhile, our boy Park was chilling at home, scrolling away. The government's official stance. 0 confirmed cases of the irregular physique. Yeah, right. What an absolute joke. Across the globe, anyone testing positive for this overpowered trait was immediately locked away in secret. But guess what? Our sneaky main character had completely slipped under their radar. Spiritual physiques usually fell into 3 basic tiers: celestial, mundane, and human. But that mythical 4th tier, a wildly unpredictable mutation that defied all known logic. Over the last 10 years, even after the great saints vanished, monstrous entities still kept crashing our reality. To stop the apocalypse, the saints had pooled their divine power and booted those monsters into the abyss. Because of that epic flex, those horrors faded into mere bedtime stories. There were a couple of glaring exceptions, though. Park scratched his head, realizing it made total sense to hide. He wasn't some notorious supervillain. Taking a casual sip of his coffee, the system chimed in. Elixir consumed. Wait. He mixed it into cheap brown rice tea. Talk about a terrifyingly casual flex. Who extracts maximum efficiency from grocery store tea? And to think, he officially tested as a trash-tier mundane. Because his official stats sucked, he had scored that sweet, rare blue matter from Brazil. But here was the catch. He had 0 clue when the buff would expire. He scoured the web for alternatives, but everything looked like total garbage. Clearly the good stuff was violently gatekept from the general public. They really want us weak, huh? But suddenly, a massive light bulb went off in his head. He aggressively typed elixirs into the search bar, striking digital gold. He found exactly what he needed. Staring closely at the mysterious seeds on his screen, his eyes went wide. Wait, I already own these. Park whipped out a handful of seeds, flashing back to that brutal monster fight. He originally thought they were just common trash drops, but deep diving into the hunter forums revealed a frustrating truth. Nobody had a single picture of them actually sprouting. Playing it cool, he dropped an anonymous post online. Hey, anyone recognize these? These bad boys were purgatory herbs. Demonic weeds growing right next to the legendary river Styx. Eat them raw, and you would violently meet your maker. Plus, forcing them to sprout was notoriously, absurdly difficult. Getting a live sprout was practically a myth. But our overpowered main character smirked. Mine are already ready to pop. Time for a mad science experiment. He unleashed his legendary solar wind breathing technique, straight onto the stubborn seeds. Instantly, magic exploded. The seeds rapidly sprouted right in his palms. Suddenly, a guy burst into the room screaming, "But wait, The room was completely empty. Did that brat just vanish? The furious man frantically tore the place apart, checking for stolen loot. He yanked open the fridge. That little thief had swiped his precious peach. Unbelievable. Meanwhile, at a safe distance, Park was busy playing magical gardener. Boom. A literal mini-tree burst forth. No way. I only breathed on it for 2 hours. He admired his absurd handiwork. His overpowered breathing wasn't just inhaling air, it was exchanging raw life force with the universe. The solar wind technique was practically a nature hack. If he could just mass-produce these demonic herbs on his own, living life as a hunted irregular would be a total breeze. Without hesitating, our crazy hero popped the purgatory sprout. Chomp. As he cycled his breathing, a blazing heat erupted in his veins, feeling exactly like that sweet blue matter. But then, poof, the glorious red aura just fizzled out. Park blinked, totally offended. Wait, did I mess up the dosage? He pushed harder, but the aura completely ghosted him again. I swear it was working. Why was the energy just awkwardly chilling? In his lower abdomen, he scratched his head. Is it because that Brazilian blue matter was just ridiculously high tier, chewing another sprout like a stubborn cow? He tried again. Boom. The red aura flared. But this time, the heat was completely unhinged. Our guy suddenly remembers that internet forum post about yin energy. The purgatory herb, totally yin. While that weird blue, void matter, big yang energy right there. Park Hamuel scratches his head, wondering if he needs a crash course in yin absorption. Because mixing those two like a bad cocktail, that's a one-way ticket to the afterlife. Still, he breathes a sigh of relief. Sure, the ingredients are cheap, but hey, free power-up, right? With a grunt, our overpowered gardener casually uproots a whole sapling. Suddenly, his phone buzzes, nearly giving him a heart attack. It's a literal doomsday text. The Majesty's son bit the dust. Beware the apocalyptic rain and run for your lives. Talk about a late notice. Total chaos erupts in the streets as a torrential downpour begins, bringing a freak show of massive worms with it. Pro tip from the screaming crowd: touching the creepy crawlies is a terrible idea. Meanwhile, our smart protagonist chills inside a protective force field building, giving himself a mental high five for following the mob. But outside, somebody help. A woman screams her lungs out as a monstrous, oversized pigeon of doom swoops down. Park is completely speechless. The giant bird casually scoops her up like a claw machine, tossing her straight into a gnarly pit of mutant worms. Then the feathered freak glares at the shielded crowd. One guy shivers, basically saying, "Sucks to be her, glad I'm safely inside." But Park's hero complex kicks in, letting a perfectly healthy civilian become bird food. Not on his watch, he marches out of the safety zone and just straight up decks the monster. Bam! The giant bird faceplants into the dirt. He stares at his fists. Since when do I hit like a freight train? Was it that spicy purgatory salad he ate earlier? Nope. Turns out this freakish rain is actually the Dragon King's tears. And guess who just absorbed all that legendary juice? The magical water puts his nature powers on absolute steroids. Plants are growing like crazy, and he feels invincible. Time for some DIY crafting. He infuses his trusty sapling, transforming it into a badass demon-slaying blade. But wait, the giant chicken isn't dead. It screeches in pure rage and dive bombs our unlucky hero. Park blocks, gritting his teeth. If I slip up now, I'm getting swatted straight into next week. He's running out of space. Finally, the oversized turkey leaves an opening. Park swings with everything he's got. A direct hit, which does absolutely zero damage. Are you kidding me? Is this blade made of plastic? He groans internally. The monster glares at the shiny sword, then takes a cheap shot at the grounded woman. Classic villain move. Park intercepts, saving her at the last second. "Thank you," she cries. "Hold the applause, we're not dead yet," he snaps back. Now the monster is throwing a massive tantrum. It unleashes a devastating strike right at the escaping duo. He absolutely yeets the woman back into the safe zone, but Park catches the brunt of it and violently faceplants into a brick wall. Luckily, his armor layers took the hit. No broken bones, but his protective buffs are completely wiped out. The demonic pigeon swoops in for round 3. Park just smirks. A bird that fat shouldn't even be able to fly. Science says, no. Reality check, he can't outrun it anymore. His power-up drug is wearing off, and his stamina gauge is blinking red. Should he plant some magical sprouts? Nah, gardening mid-battle against a flying raid boss sounds like a terrible strategy. It's time to go all in. He whips out his ultimate trump card. The demon-slaying blade isn't just an ordinary sword. It's a thirsty magical plant. He jams the blade into the dirt, letting its roots aggressively drink up the battlefield's energy. Normally this takes forever. But thanks to the Dragon King's tears raining down, it's like plugging into a supercharger. The blade fiercely chugs the magical storm water, sparking with terrifying crackling lightning. Park charges like a madman and absolutely clobbers the beast. The blow sends the monster crashing backward so hard, its ugly head gets completely wedged inside a building. Gotcha. Park swings and off rolls the giant bird's head. The crowd goes absolutely wild. The authorities would have swept this under the rug, but this random guy just went full anime protagonist to save a stranger. They're already hyping him up as the city's newest superhero. Phones are out and his epic decapitation clip is trending online. But out of nowhere, Bam Park gets blindsided. A crazy guy pins him down screaming, "Do you know what you just did? You murdered Lady Mishua's favorite pet pigeon." Great, now the viral video has a part 2, and the internet trolls are already trying to cancel our hero. Cut to the final boss, Lady Mishua. "Is my precious baby dead? Did you roast the peasant who touched my messenger?" she demands. Her sweating assistant gulps. "Actually, ma'am, he's just sitting in jail right now." Big mistake. She completely flips her lid. They dare to just arrest him. She screams, ready to wage a one-woman war on humanity. "Tell those pathetic humans to execute that boy right now. Set an example or I'll burn their entire world to ash." The messenger reported that our main character's crazy antics were currently breaking the internet. Since the public was already throwing tantrums about the new management, she really needed to play nice with the kid. Yoa scoffed, complaining that this world's rules were a total buzzkill and the government was downright scary. But she knew Vern had a trick up his sleeve to chill her out. The maid smirked, revealing a special bribe just to keep Mishua's pristine image squeaky clean. Yoa grinned eagerly, awaiting the goods. As the sky finally cleared, the woman joked that the Dragon King had finally stopped his dramatic crying. "So much for transcendent beings not having worldly desires," Mishua snatched the package, absolutely thrilled to score the loot. It was just a chunk of wood, but not just any wood. This bad boy was the ultimate fantasy treasure, blooming only once every 3,000 years. It came from a mystical tree exclusively grown in the legendary orchard of the Queen, Mother of the West, bearing the peaches of immortality. Yoa recalled that when the Queen Mother pulled a heroic sacrifice to seal heaven's gates, her orchard vanished. If she could just grow a tiny sprout from this bark, she'd literally steal the Queen Mother's title. Meanwhile, Park Hanu strolled down the street, recalling how he accidentally made the mighty deities look like total clowns. He was strictly warned to keep a low profile and avoid the spotlight at all costs. Staring at his own hand, the protagonist realized that losing his overpowered sword was a bummer, but securing his new prize was totally worth it. That night, he discovered a random block of wood jammed inside the monster bird's ankle and scratched his head, wondering why. Suddenly it clicked. The wood was actually alive. Before that mysterious guy ambushed him, our hero slyly pocketed a sprout casually, deciding to test his luck at magical gardening. Fast forward 1 year and the breaking news. Broadcast claimed the government was trying everything to filter the tap water. One grumpy dude gagged at the awful stench, yelling that a literal monster was ruining their plumbing, and the officials needed to step up. Exactly 1 month ago, when celestial energies went completely haywire, a 1,000-year-old snakehead fish decided the Han River was its new cozy bathtub. After ditching the monster realm for a human river, this oversized sushi rolled up with enough power to boldly declare itself a god, demanding everyone call it the sovereign of the Han River. This absolute diva forbade anyone from touching the water without a juicy human sacrifice first. Watching the ridiculous broadcast, a teen laughed that the fish had the IQ of an earthworm. This was Young Gi-ju, a supposedly elite disciple from the 8 sacred mountains of Korea. Instantly, someone barked at him to zip his lips during the serious briefing and actually sit like a normal, respectful human being. The scolding came from Shin Soman, the youngest and arguably bossiest disciple of the sacred mountains. But honestly, Gi-ju could not care less about this useless meeting. They couldn't fix this mess alone, and let's be real, the stubborn elders were pulling all the strings anyway. This struck a nerve, and the girl furiously demanded if that was the trash attitude his master taught him. She screamed that 10,000 people were already sick from the nasty water, so they desperately needed a miracle cure right now. Then she snapped, asking how he dared to disrespect her master. Unfazed, Youngju fired back, asking if she actually thought she could fillet the Han River sovereign. 4 top-tier immortal badasses already tried to jump the creature and got absolutely wrecked. He blatantly asked if she wanted them all to become fish food. The real headache with this oversized carp was its ridiculously overpowered combo of earth and water magic. Finding someone who could dual-wield elements like that boss monster was nearly impossible. So the only cheat code to win was an Earth Master Immortal to counter it, or an insanely high-level dual-element freak. The lazy boy shrugged, saying he wouldn't stop their suicidal planning, but he was 100% sitting this raid out. Furious, the woman completely shattered the presentation remote in her grip. Yawning, the boy bounced to go train. He muttered that if someone could actually fry that fish, they'd have their golden ticket. Later, the woman marched into the creepy forest, lugging the legendary demon-slaying sword, recalling how a year ago, some crazy guy one-shotted Yoa's monster bird with it. He got tossed in jail and later freed, but the shiny weapon got snatched up and hoarded by the Immortal Society. It was just a super rare wooden stick, but since it looked like a sword, it gave the heavenly authorities a major headache. Thankfully, once its mystical energy fizzled out like a dead battery, the chaos finally chilled out. As for Park Hanu, he had been full-on hermit mode for the past year. He only touched grass to eat, with his mom or buddies basically binge-watching movies all day. The girl remembered him bragging that he wasn't using any system apps, leaving him completely blind to his own leveling stats. Honestly, considering the insane trauma he survived, playing it safe made total sense. Suddenly, our protagonist spotted her, did a hilarious U-turn, and bolted away young Jiayu. She refused to let him slip away. Pumping her legs at max speed, she chased the guy. But even with a speed talisman, she was eating his dust. Suddenly, Park pop-up jump-scared her, casually asking if she belonged to the Immortal Society. Run away. Nah, dude was just baffled. Why this random chick was stalking him? She noticed him sweating buckets. Why use raw muscle? Instead of magic to ditch her, she tossed him a phone, instantly transferring the user data. Boom, his stats popped up. Yang smirked, realizing this high immortal was ranked lower than her. Park deadpanned, asking if she wanted his wood magic to body the Han River Sovereign. Did they really want that monster dead? Yang sighed. Nope. The lazy seniors were totally ignoring the beast, treating it like a pop quiz for the juniors to solve. Classic boomer behavior, Park scoffed. Pointing out that thousands of normals were dying, he agreed to help but demanded his loot drop. Would he get paid, and could he get his confiscated sword back? Yang gasped. How did he know? Park smirked. Bro literally talks to trees just by breathing. That epic wood technique was his radar. Yang facepalmed. That's why he sprinted like a forest ninja. Park then hit her with the real question. Would his annoying curfew get cancelled? Yang sweated, admitting she couldn't promise squat. Making a flashy scene would cause massive headaches. Nobody was going to hand out free VIP passes just for doing a good deed. She explained his grounding was payback for frying Miss Yua's pet bird. Whoops, still that dumb incident. Could be swept under the rug if he just carried this boss fight and deleted the Han River monster. Cut to the riverbank. The annoying sidekick whined clueless about why they were chilling by the muddy water. Did Park have a master plan, or was he just dragging them along to gawk at the water pest? Yang told the guy to chill his beans. The Han River Sovereign was lurking right there. She sweated, doubting what our quirky hero could pull off. Rummaging his bag, Park pulled out a crusty album. Gross. He saved this secret weapon for a rainy day, but time was up. Yang panicked, screaming at him to back away from the deadly water, but instead her jaw dropped at his totally bizarre strategy. Park laughed. Hadn't she done this elementary school science project? He was literally germinating, purifying plants. Nature's best filter was doing its magic. But just as the water cleared up, a colossal scaly monstrosity erupted from the depths. Park cracked his knuckles, drawing his blade. Time for extreme bass fishing. A deafening roar shook the earth. The arrogant beast proclaimed itself the absolute water god, refusing to bow. It lunged at our boy with killer intent. Park casually danced out of the way just in time. In a flash, he chained a rapid-fire spell combo, blasting it straight at the beast's ugly mug. Enraged, the monster roared at his audacity. But Park just spammed magic projectiles right into its scales. The creature was absolutely mauling. Yang shielded the useless extras, completely awestruck. Park's big brain plant trick had literally sucked out all the monster's toxic buff energy. Talk about a massive system nerf. Still, spamming low-level spells wouldn't deplete this boss's health bar, the monster sneered. Nice parlor tricks, kid, but invisible energy manipulation was just tickling it. It charged again, unleashing a devastating tidal crash. The blow sent Park plummeting toward a watery grave. Not today, he wildly chucked out floating magical seeds, using them as stepping stones. Drawing his final seed, he chucked it right into the beast. The monster laughed. A piece of lightning struck wood. Was this squishy human trying to hurt a god with a tiny twig? Park grinned like a maniac. That twig was already lodged inside its chest. Didn't it feel a little spicy? Bidding the ugly lizard a sarcastic farewell, he activated his trap card. A custom-made supercharged lightning dart. He totally trapped the boss. Sparking with divine fury, 1,000,000 volts nuked the entire river, deep frying the arrogant snake god. A colossal blinding explosion turned the sovereign into extra crispy calamari. Park took a deep breath. Ah, the sweet smell of ozone and victory, surfing on the giant roasted snake, he sighed. He totally blew his low-profile cover again. Rest in peace, peaceful life. The real reason the elders ignored this beast was revealed. It was just an experience farm for their elite disciples. Zero cares given to normal folks. Poking the crispy corpse, Park found his epic loot drop. A bit tiny, that shiny inner core, the one those water beasts desperately farmed to become a dragon. Yeah, totally mine now. I mean, finders keepers for a successful mission, right? But plot twist. Some random grumpy dude starts trash-talking our hero. He hits me with a surprise magic bind, demanding if I knew the colossal mess I just made. Turns out, that bully was the celestial king Mikusha. Meanwhile, spectator girl up above is sweating bullets. She recognizes this VIP. She remembers a certain warning. Just smile and wave until these stuck-up immortals inevitably step on a rake and start throwing tantrums. They realize someone had totally ruined their script. Beating the Han River Sovereign wasn't supposed to happen today. Fate just got a massive, unexpected rewrite. Trying to save face, the girl nervously bows. Oh wow, respected seniors. What a lovely surprise. But Mikusha isn't buying the sweet talk. He glares right through her. Aren't you Master Tebek's little disciple? She aggressively nods, hoping not to get blasted. He snaps back, utterly disgusted by the situation. How can Tebek's student be so clueless? You brought a noob who only trained for 1 single year. 0 formal masters. Sure, his weird wood magic is ultra rare, but a self-taught rookie, one-shotting a sovereign. Are you blind to how sketchy this kid is? He glares with pure venom. Speak one more word and I'll ruin your master's whole career. Panic mode fully activated, the poor girl freezes. She finally grasps the danger. But our boy Park, he just bursts out laughing. Did you lose your mind, brat? Park smirks. Why the panic? Did I break a law or something? You guys are just salty, because my skills are literally built different. Honestly, this was his second rodeo with these clowns. He casually scrolls his system app. Funny, it's only been exactly 3 minutes since I turned that fish into sushi. The immortals blink in sheer confusion. Park grins. You geezers were camping that boss spawn, weren't you? Popping up right after I did the dirty work. Let me guess you wanted to steal the kill, to look like epic heroes for the clout. But oops, I swiped your ex. So you came crying. Just admit you're mad I beat you to it. Annoyed, Park tells them to zip it. Suddenly, boom. They tried to pin the explosion on our hero. But Mikusha's jaw drops when his spell completely fizzles out. I always go for the gut. Park winks casually, pointing his blade right at the celestial boss. The king turns beet red with absolute fury. Do you know whose face you're pointing that toy at? Last words. Park doesn't even flinch. Die, please. This glorified boomer couldn't scratch him if he tried. Your ego pierces the very heavens, the king screams, launching his ultimate finishing move. AABOMM. The smoke clears. But wait. The king is stunned. A wild new challenger has entered the chat. Shouldn't the watchdog stay in the yard? A smooth voice echoes. Meet Elder Bank, a top-tier heavyweight from the 3 heavens. My lady has a tiny favor to ask. Bank hums. Sorry to crash your tantrum, but beating up a kid is a bad look. Though I admit he's incredibly reckless. Go ahead and brawl if you want to ruin your immortal reviews. It's your funeral. But this kid has no beef here, so excuse us. And just like that, Bank and Park vanish. The king is left seething. Why did that noble lady send her best guy for a scrub? Meanwhile, Park is strolling with his new VIP bodyguard. Bank sighs. Did you act crazy because you knew I'd save you? Let me drop some wisdom, kid. You think you're special. Blind arrogance is a quick ticket to the graveyard. Park just nods with a cheeky little smile. Noted, Grandpa Bank. Thanks for the rescue service. Flash forward 1.5 years. Park still cringes thinking about that messy day. So much chaos for just trying to fish. Turns out being a good guy with 0 street smarts gets you 0 stars from the locals. Since the whole Han River drama, he had been doing his homework. No more stumbling blindly into plot holes. No more getting treated like a clueless punching bag. The days of being the victim were officially over. Now enter Miss Yua. She owns a very special garden. We're talking top-tier divine-level medicinal herbs. The kind that makes cultivators drool with envy. But rumors are just rumors, right? So our boy hatched a master-level trolling plan to get her attention, and that brings us to now. Standing confidently before the VIP lady herself. Yua tilts her head. Did you just say her target was Park? She sneered, asking if this punk even knew what he was holding. He sweat dropped, muttering about seeds of the infamous purgatory grass. The lady scoffed. Such a god-tier item casually found by mere mortals peddling it on the black market. She had tracked down the seller to deliver a classic beatdown, sweating bullets at her killer intent. Our main character instantly dropped to his knees. "I have sinned immensely," he cried, pulling the ultimate poverty card. "I was broke and desperate." Surprisingly, she smirked, telling him to look up. His debt was officially cleared. Well, sort of. Her mercy was just a calculation balancing the scales for the ultimate crime of roasting her pet bird. Yeah, that wasn't cheap. Feeling generous, she offered a second chance. "Why not become my personal gardener?" She boasted about her elite stash of magical herbs. If this scrappy kid could somehow sprout purgatory grass, he could easily farm the aquatic weeds needed to cleanse the Han River Sovereign's nasty poison. Park bowed like a bobblehead, thanking her for the insane overestimation. Honestly, his green thumb was entirely thanks to his cheat-like cultivation technique. But Yua wasn't buying it. With that skill, basic weeds should fruit in 2 days. Park awkwardly scratched his head. Yeah, well, the purgatory grass is stuck at the sprout stage, no matter the grind. The stubborn weeds simply refused to level up. The imposing woman raised an eyebrow. "Are you implying that your hands are basically cursed?" Our hero shamefully nodded. Amused, she chuckled at his sheer audacity. "You have guts, kid, trying to haggle with me." She declared she would sponsor his broke self, with some divine fertilizers from her stash. And as a bonus, she would send a personal escort to force some martial enlightenment into his thick skull. A young aide was swiftly assigned to babysit him. Once more, our sly protagonist groveled in gratitude. Plot twist. This was exactly what the sneaky devil wanted all along. Yua glanced at the shadows. "Have you been lurking there the whole time?" Her loyal handmaid stepped into the light. "What is your assessment?" The girl frowned, pointing out that Park smelled fishier than a seafood market. His polite act screamed hidden agenda. Besides, rumors said this. Nobody was the lunatic who roasted the pet bird and somehow clapped the Han River Sovereign. For a total rookie to pull off such ridiculous feats, he had to be either a supreme genius or a colossal idiot. Did you know he was playing us master? Yet Yua had still reeled him in. That was exactly why the maid was put on babysitting duty. But Yua just smirked, telling her to chill out. Let the kid play in the 6th garden. Even if he is cooking up a sinister plot, he will not snatch a single pathetic seed from my turf. And if our protagonist proved to be absolutely useless, simple, we grind him into premium fertilizer. The maid sighed, realizing this crazy alliance was all for the sake of the legendary Peninsula Peach. Still, she secretly hoped this goofy kid would actually be worth the headache. Meanwhile, Park strolled down the street running mental scans like a walking cheat code. The hidden immortal's power level is over 300, and Yua breaks 400. Thanks to hitting 10 stars in the Starwind art, he could literally read their stats. But trusting the system? Bad idea. The Celestial King and that hot-headed brute were casually sitting above 600. Even Beck broke the 400 mark. And our hero, a pathetic 45. Sure, he had binged all the Starwind manuals over the past year like a nerd, but it was all completely theoretical. He had a brutal grinding session ahead of him. Reaching his secret spot, he smirked. Bingo. Before him stood a brilliantly glowing magical tree. Today he had brought a special tribute, the stolen sentiment from the Han River Sovereign himself. I scratch your bark, you scratch my back right. He fully expected some epic loot in return. Fast forward, and he was deep in a hardcore meditation trance, until his stomach growled. The heavenly aroma of the peaches snapped him awake. Just inhaling the scent was buffing his attack stats. This magical breathing peach tree had been cultivating its essence for a whole year, and finally this week, it dropped the ultimate payload glowing fruits. Sure, they looked like tiny, pathetic marbles right now. But a snack is a snack, and it was time to feast. Suddenly, a squeaky voice interrupted his meal prep. "Hold your horses, kid." Park whipped his head around, jaw-dropping. A tiny, fluffy bear was casually lecturing him. Blinking in disbelief, Park asked for the furball's identity. The bear puffed its chest. "The elders call me Guanaki," Park gasped. "Wait, like the legendary mountain god Guanascan. Ever since the heavenly gates burst open, ancient deities were popping up like respawning mobs. But this poor guy had the worst luck. Centuries ago, when the capital moved to Hungwang, officials thought the blazing fire energy from Mount Guanascan was perfectly balanced by adding water energy. They used a mythical unicorn lion statue and dug out the Obsastanen Blue Lagoon. Basically, they kept poking the mountain's magical energy. And that is exactly why this fluffy bear was only half its normal size. Park casually mentions he had been grinding his training here for over a year, so he expected to meet the furball sooner. But nope, this was their first introduction. The bear huffs, claiming he saw no reason to interrupt a sweaty human training. Park squints, wondering if Yogi Bear here just wanted his magic peach. But since the tree warped the space around it, the bear was stuck outside the barrier. Park tells the bear to hold on a sec. He just needed a quick snack. The bear panics, waving his paws. Did this human not hear a single word he just said? Eating it now would be absolute madness. The tree's entire energy is packed into that fruit. If he gobbled it down, the protective barrier would completely vanish. What would he do when greedy cultivators came to steal the tree? Park blinks. Was the bear planning to steal it? The bear scoffs. Do I look like a common thief to you? But the real problem was that people would eventually sense this place. In fact, right at this very moment, someone at the bottom of the hill was coming for our main character. Looking up, Park spots the massive barrier, realizing it was packed with ridiculous amounts of spiritual energy. Pointing a stubby claw upward, the bear gives an "I told you so" look. If invaders were hammering the barrier this hard, they desperately wanted inside. Or maybe, just maybe, they wanted the legendary peach of immortality growing. Right there, Park smirks. Is this that epic peach from Journey to the West? The one the Monkey King munched on? The bear facepalms. Forget the monkey. The terrifying truth is that a top-tier Taoist master is hunting you down. A psycho using fire magic. Even with his training, traversing the tree's forms was risky. A frail human body would literally explode trying to digest the immortal peach. But the bear, he was a magical beast, so naturally Park should hand over the fruit. It was the only way to restore his power and save both of them from getting roasted alive. Park gives a deadpan sorry, then takes a massive bite of the peach. The bear's jaw drops to the floor. Who is this crazy kid? This was the legendary fruit that turned the Monkey King into an absolute god. He braced for the boy to explode. Suddenly, the system rings out. It announces the mystical item was consumed. Park plops down to meditate. The bear sweats bullets, asking if he felt any terrifying, earth-shattering changes in his body. The main character just licks his lips. It was sweet and juicy. The bear loses his mind, screaming that he's an absolute idiot. Park just sighs. Why is this furball so dramatic? Still, no matter what breathing art he used, a weird heat bounced around his belly. But unlike the scorching pain from his last power-up, this felt like a warm hug. The bear groans, explaining it takes 3,000 years to grow even a trash-tier fruit. So, a one-year peach was basically a cheap knockoff. Park rubs his tummy, saying he feels a bit weird, and asks for help. The bear crosses his arms. I could not help you, even if I wanted to. My magic tank is totally empty. Right on cue, Park completely disrespects him by flicking a seed at his forehead. The bear growls, furious at the sheer audacity. But then his eyes bug out. He looks closer at the projectile, asking if that was a legendary purgatory seed. Was this human seriously giving him top-tier loot? Park just smiles and hands over a whole handful of them. He shrugs, saying it was just pocket change, and asks if the bear could recharge with these snacks. The bear puffs out his chest. Oh, piece of cake. Park then asks what the master plan was now. The bear smirks and tells him they could start a real estate business selling caves. Park just stares, absolutely dumbfounded. The bear coughs, admitting that 3 measly purgatory sprouts were not actually enough to fix his divine powers. The main character rolls his eyes, asking for plan B. The bear side eyes him. Do you have any other overpowered cheat items hidden away? Park taps his chin, decides to open the system window, and realizes it had a mini-map. Peeking over his shoulder, the bear nods at the glowing screen. Meanwhile, Park realizes he still had to smash the guy hiking up the hill. The bear gasps. Are you seriously going to fight him? Park cracks his knuckles. Yep. If I do nothing, some random guy is going to steal my personal loot tree. The bear shakes his head, certain. This kid was walking straight to his funeral. How could he be this chill about fighting a master? But right then, the absolute madman sprints directly toward the enemy. Down below, the fiery Taoist sneers, thinking he finally cornered his prey. A second later, Park slides right into his face. Sensing the crazy aura, the master sweats. Are you a disciple of the Celestial King? Did your master send you to drag Park back? The arrogant young master smirked, confirming it with a cocky grin. They even gave him the ultimate cheat code, the 9-tailed fox fan. The bear gasped so hard he almost choked. That legendary fan had not been seen in 300 years. Our furry friend could not believe. This mythological relic was right here. Crafted from an actual mythic foxtail, it was absurdly rare. The tail was flawlessly preserved, practically dripping with massive phantom energy. The smug guy nodded, showing off his shiny toy like a spoiled rich kid. Park, ever the buzzkill, just sighed. Bro, even if that belongs to the Celestial King, are you seriously going to blow up? A crowded zone. The young master laughed. Are you blind or can you not feel this insane aura? He bragged that no matter how much Park cried or spammed skills, nobody was escaping this trap. The bear chimed in like a human encyclopedia, explaining, the cheat item held the overwhelming power of 4 celestial beasts. Annoyed by the furry narrator, the young master threw a tantrum. Why does this oversized plushie keep interrupting my villain speech? Park just stood there clueless as always. The villain raged, screaming that the furry mascot was ruining his dramatic moment. Instead of frying the fish, he decided to just delete Park from existence. Watching this absolute clown show escalate, Park calmly analyzed that this pay-to-win trash had boosted his stats by 105 times. Seriously, it was straight out of a pay-to-win gacha game. The villain dramatically flared his aura across the whole, mountain casting huge debuffs. But Park was not buying this fake hype. Reading the room perfectly, our overpowered main character casually activated his wind distribution skill. While the cocky villain thought he was charging up his ultimate, he unleashed his big blast at Park, but hilariously, our boy Park just swatted it away like an annoying mosquito. The bear's jaw hit the floor. Was that kind of absurd martial art even legal in this universe? Park smirked. Did I not mention that once you start a fight here, nobody leaves in one piece? Listen up. If you draw your weapon on someone, you better be ready to get completely clapped. Shocked and sweating, the villain stuttered. How dare an uneducated peasant block my attack? But right on cue, karmic justice kicked in. A spooky blue glow swallowed the boastful brat, and he instantly face-planted into the dirt, completely out cold. Park poked the guy with a stick, diagnosing the epic fail. When you blindly spam a sacred relic, way above your level, you do not get stronger. You just get your soul vacuumed into it. What an absolute newbie mistake. Still, Park felt something was off. The bear chimed in saying, if a high-tier player used that overpowered fan, this whole mountain would be a crater right now. Park's eyes sparkled with greed. A legendary item that strong. It is mine now. Boom. A massive explosion nuked the scene. An angry boomer elder had smashed the barrier, scooping up his knocked out. Failure of a disciple. The elder fumed, utterly embarrassed by this tragic display. How could a proud student of the Celestial King get instantly one-shotted like a total clown? This kid was definitely getting grounded forever, facing the ultimate wrath. Of their master titles like Immortal Commander or Red Martial Master meant absolutely nothing here. They were mere bugs compared to the 8 sacred monks. Park just raised his hands, casually playing the self-defense card. Hey, self-defense totally applies when old men randomly attack you too, right? Park cracked his knuckles, ready to throw hands. The elder raged like a boiling kettle. I should have roasted you a year ago. I have no clue why the boss even wants a walking glitch like you alive. But screw orders, I'm gonna deep fry you into extra crispy chicken bones. Park just stared at the screaming boomer with a total poker face. And then, using his ultimate survival technique, Park sprinted away like his life depended on it. The crazy old man chased him down, spamming fireballs like a machine gun. Dodging for his life, Park admitted this matchup was totally rigged. The elemental compatibility here was absolute garbage. Fire was literally his worst nightmare. The bear yelled from the sidelines, screaming to just spam the stolen, 9-tailed fox fan. Just pour your mana into it and wave it around like a magic wand. It literally has no elemental limits. Before the bear could finish the tutorial, bam, the elder absolutely blasted the poor mascot with a spell. Park's sweat dropped, hesitating. Wait, what if this cursed fan vacuums my soul like it did to that idiot? But facing a fiery death, he said, whatever, and clicked activate. He dumped his mana into the legendary relic. The elder screamed, foaming at the mouth, how dare you touch our sacred item? But plot armor prevailed. The fan acted like a giant Uno reverse card, blasting the elder with his own attacks. Park blinked in pure shock. Holy wow, pay-to-win items are ridiculously broken. He looked around, wondering where the crispy old man flew off to. But right when he dropped his guard, wham! A dirty sneak attack from the shadows. Park coughed up blood, realizing his health bar just tanked. Emerging from the flames, the elder scoffed, calling Park a pathetic joke. Not only did he turn the Celestial King's disciple into a meme, but now he spammed the 9-tailed fox fan. Park was shocked he survived. He wondered why these immortals were such massive haters. The elder spammed a barrage of spells, screaming that it was help time. Game over. The magical nuke slammed into our hero, dealing a fatal strike. The boomer sneered, refusing to let 9. Park pulled cheap tricks. Next stop, express delivery to the Celestial King, completely overwhelmed our hero. Wondered if this was his death scene. Honestly, if he had full HP, he totally would have destroyed this guy. But wait, why did the pain magically vanish? Suddenly, a glowing peach floated right in front of him. System chimed in. Item analysis complete. Let's rewind. Ages ago, the Monkey King wanted total freedom. So, he forged an indestructible body, heaven's most overpowered divine weapons. Couldn't even leave a scratch on him. He casually tanked 49 days in the divine furnace, even while getting squashed by Buddha's giant hand. His defense held up for 500 years. Inspired by this Dong chased eternal life, he crafted immortal cells that ignored the underworld's deadliest curses. It got so ridiculous that even the literal king of hell just gave up on killing him. Back to reality. The system pinged again. Magic Peach consumed. The hidden perk was unlocked, its true superpower, crafting custom element-optimized internal organs, and boom. That's how Park struck the elemental jackpot. His new system handled everything, including deleting poisons. Park's newly upgraded liver flooded his body with freezing water aura. When he opened his eyes, our Any-Well-To hero looked like an absolute boss. The Elder took one look at this insane glow-up and began sweating bullets. How did this kid get water powers? The boomer realized he messed up big time. Park wasn't a rookie. He was a glitch in the Matrix. Honestly, Park had no clue how he got buffed either. But hey, at least he wasn't burning to a crisp anymore. Grabbing his nine-tailed fox fan, he launched a massive counterattack. The boomer Elder, completely stunned, took the hit to the face. KO. With the battle won, Park collapsed, while the frantic bear shook him to wake up. Park groggily blinked his eyes open. The giant furball sighed in relief, glad our guy was finally awake. The bear bluntly refused to discuss the crazy miracle. Instead, he asked if Park should ditch this flooded zone. Still out of it, Park glanced around. He realized the entire area was completely submerged in water. His brain was absolutely lagging. Searching the crispy Elder's pockets, Park mumbled about finding a magic flag acting as a TV remote for the barrier. Where was it? Scavenging the epic loot, Park looked. Surprised, he found a red talisman. The bear chimed in, calling it a spatial treasure pouch. Basically, an infinite inventory bag for epic loot. But the bear quickly ruined the mood, barking that this was no time to play unboxing simulator. A mob of enemies was sprinting their way. As Park casually slung the dead boomer over his shoulder, the bear yelled, asking what he was doing. Park dropped the corpse, making the giant furball question his sanity. The beast warned that if they stayed there, the incoming squad would totally discover where the tree was. Whispering a spell, Park told the bear to chill. Flexing his magic, our boy had a brilliant plan to troll their pursuers. The bear's jaw basically hit the floor. He realized Park was actually walked, using the roasted elder as premium fertilizer to sprout a new magic fruit. Park smirked, noting they weren't too late. Spotting the angry mob charging in, he proudly declared their farming side quest a success. The plow bear explained the peach tree bloomed again, turning its cloaking barrier back on. They were in stealth mode, but the furry god grumbled. If that crazy elder hadn't been a walking fire hazard, this weird botany experiment, that would have failed. Jumping on the fruit topic, Park eagerly asked if the peach had any overpowered medicinal buffs, but the bear shrugged. No idea. It's such an insanely rare SSR tier item that only a few Burlink know its true meta. Since Park hadn't visually changed, the bear guessed the magic fruit was probably under-leveled, explaining why the buff hadn't kicked in. Park's gamer brain started calculating. If his new liver could infinitely farm power, his water aura would go sicko mode. It was crazy. He just wondered what stats he'd get from eating a fully maxed out peach. Meanwhile, the giant bear looked awkward. He wanted to ask a favor, begging to see the outside world. Park raised an eyebrow. Wait, is it even possible for a deity to leave its spawn zone? The bear grinned. Easy, I just need to hitch a ride in an alter ego. But the spirit beast needed a power source to pull that off. Park fully expected this furball to stick to him like chewed gum. The bear, however, dramatically declared this was his only choice. By imploding his physical form, he could tag along. Now that their fates were linked, the furry spirit claimed he could finally experience the wonders of the human world through Park's eyes. Sizing up this ridiculous situation, our hero decided to play along and accept the magical beast's offer. But nothing in this world is free. Park immediately demanded a tribute. Without missing a beat, the bear coughed up a mystical weapon and handed it to the young man. As Park inspected the loot, the bear launched into a massive lore drop. For centuries stretching all across the Korean peninsula and East Asia, a legendary presence lurked in the shadows. We are talking about an elite fantasy race of highly intelligent beings known as goblins. These weren't your average low-level mobs. They boasted insane combat skills and an incredibly rare spiritual physique. Even crazier, they wielded exclusive bound weapons, specifically designed to amplify their demonic power. We are talking about the legendary Goblin Helmet, and the Goblin Club Park swung the weapon around, raising a totally valid question. Could he even use it? After all, the rulebook clearly stated these items were bound to their original owners. The bear nodded, confirming this annoying fact, but quickly added that it was still an ultra-rare treasure. You could practically trade it to any goblin for a massive favor. The helmet and club were absolutely one-of-a-kind drops that could never be crafted twice. If a goblin lost either piece, their combat power literally got sliced in half. Smirking Park realized that since the bear possessed the club, the clueless furball had no idea who it actually belonged to. Weighing the pros and cons, our practical hero decided this wasn't a bad deal at all. Snatching the club, Park officially formed their weird little party, which sent the bear into officially a joyful frenzy. With their alliance sealed, Park declared it was time to clock in for the Lady of the Garden. But first things first, it was time to shamelessly loot all the shiny items from the unconscious guys on the floor. Meanwhile, shifting gears to the absolute top of the food chain, the upcoming Hibuji 22 summit that was locked in for the 31st. The government was already pulling strings in the shadows, arranging top-secret meetings with the ultimate heads of state. One official casually dropped a bombshell rumor. He heard this entire global summit was secretly organized around something called the Tower of Marbling. Park, casually eavesdropping on this exposition, corrected him in his head. It was the Tower of Babel. This was an insanely massive, unprecedented megastructure boldly built by ancient humans trying to punch a hole straight into the heavens. Sure, it was a bit different from the dusty old myths, but the Tower of Babel was a very real thing that existed ages before the celestial gates slammed shut, and now, in this modern dynasty of immortals, the plan was to completely reconstruct it using Babylon's original blueprints. But here was the hilariously chaotic catch. If this divine renovation project succeeded, all the languages across the entire globe would be scrambled like eggs. Sure, a unified world sounded great on paper, but the absolute economic chaos would be catastrophic. For starters, the entire global translation industry would go instantly bankrupt. Shrugging off the massive political lore, Park thought to himself that this epic world-ending drama was totally above his pay grade. He firmly decided this global crisis was absolutely none of his business. But then, in a terrifying, the flash of twisted metal, a brutal car crash shattered the peace. Park scrambled to his feet wildly, looking around at the sudden chaos. But what truly shocked him was the sight before his eyes. The mysterious girl from earlier was standing dead center of the wreckage, aggressively ordering him to step back. She coolly introduced herself as Jack Xiangbi, dropping the attitude of a top-tier boss. She claimed she was only here because someone cashed in a favor to protect him. However, if he dragged her into any idiotic mess, she would personally make his life a living hell. Sweating buckets, our hero vigorously promised to be the most obedient sidekick ever. A moment later, the magical bear, who had hilariously disguised himself as a chunky smartphone case, muttered the scary girl's name. He dramatically whispered that our protagonist was basically doomed. Park nervously asked if the fuzzy phone accessory actually knew this terrifying woman. The bear smugly replied that he knew her history quite well. With a sneaky chuckle, the bear offered to leak her ultimate weakness. He casually revealed that this frightening martial arts master absolutely lost her mind over incredibly handsome guys. Park just blinked, completely dumbfounded by this ridiculous character flaw. Flashback time. Centuries ago on Jigu Island, there was a guy named Mong Dorian. As the son of the moon deity, his god-tier good looks were legendary across the realm. Back then, Jack Xiangbi was just your average everyday village girl. That is, until she accidentally caught the divine pretty boy taking a bath. The sheer, unadulterated shock of his ridiculous hotness literally forced her spiritual physique to awaken, completely defying the closed gates of heaven. Snapping back to reality, Park almost choked on his own spit. Awakening your latent powers by peeping at a hot guy. That sounded like a garbage-tier comedy plot. The bear just laughed, explaining that the universe is weird. Sometimes a ridiculous mental shock is all it takes to shatter mortal limits. These newly awakened weirdos were quickly scooped up and sponsored by bored deities in the human realm. Because Jack Xiangbi hit the genetic lottery with a celestial physique matching the Moon Clan, she felt destined for greatness. Fueled by absolute simp energy, she relentlessly pursued the handsome young lord. But unfortunately for our romantic stalker, it was brutally obvious that the Moon Prince wouldn't give a stray, sponsorless immortal the time of day. Rejected and absolutely fuming with divine rage, she aggressively questioned why she wasn't good enough. Spite is a heck of a motivator, so she swore a blood oath to make the pretty boy notice her by force. And boy did she overachieve. In less than a century, Jack Xiangbi violently conquered all of Jigu Island. She ascended as the legendary terrifying Chosen, flower destined to smash through the heavens and totally dominate the world. After casually establishing her own empire, she marched right up and formally demanded the Moon Prince's hand in marriage. But her own terrified father, sweating over her monstrous power level, plotted to exile her. Just as she was picking out wedding dresses and blushing over her happily ever after, the ultimate betrayal struck. On the exact day of her wedding, a massive conspiracy unfolded against her. These clueless assassins thought they were hunting a helpless girl. Big mistake. Fueled by pure, unadulterated rage, this drop-dead, gorgeous powerhouse absolutely vaporized every single traitor. Even when they whipped out the forbidden suraflower of extinction, technique they couldn't outrun her wrath. That legendary clash literally almost deleted the entire island off the map. But tragically, she still lost in the end. Why? Because her own true love stabbed her in the back, trying to exploit. Her divine power's greedy nobles sent a parade of pretty boy targets. Rumor had it she had a type, but every single one met a brutal end. The bear smugly nudged Park, asking if he felt totally safe since the girl had absolutely no reason to target him. After all, our main character wasn't exactly a male model. Park's eyebrow twitched with annoyance, threatening to punt the blow. Overgrown furball straight back to the mountains. Suddenly, the girl interrupted his raging, pointing out they had finally reached their destination. Trudging up the massive stairs, Park awkwardly coughed out an apology. The guide coolly explained that the fortress housed 6 legendary gardens numbered 1 through 6. Out of all of them, the only scrap of land Park could claim was garden number 6. Park immediately guessed it was the absolute bottom of the barrel, definitely not expecting any top-tier spiritual herbs anytime soon. But when he looked up, his jaw dropped to the dirt. 2 literal suns were blazing in. That's Arga. That's where instant, the sky. He demanded to know why this place felt like an oven. The guide stated that every single gate held a completely different world, space-time dimension. Boom, congratulations. Our hero was now the official lord of this barren wasteland, tasked with extreme cosmic farming. Park casually asked about his predecessor, and the girl just gave him a deadpan stare, asking if he seriously thought someone survived this job. This place had been on lockdown since the last lord croaked 100 years ago. Young master's eyes flashed with dollar signs. More mortals meant crazy high demand, which meant the value of medicinal herbs would absolutely skyrocket. The guide smirked, dropping the ultimate bait. Just because he was in the trash-tier garden didn't mean he wouldn't get filthy rich. Come harvest season, he would be rolling in cash, especially with zero competition from other celestial farmers. With that mic drop, she peaced out. But suddenly, Park's modern-day phone blared an alarm, making him fumble and drop it face up on the mod. Dirt. Oh no. His totally embarrassing lock screen was fully exposed. The bear's earlier mockery about his looks instantly echoed in his head. Sweating bullets, he frantically swore profound respect for the girl. Cut to 2 hours later. Park finally fluttered his dizzy eyes open. The bear was casually munching snacks, snarking that Sleeping Beauty was finally awake. The fluffy jerk noted he had been knocked out cold for 2 whole hours. Groaning, Park asked what hit him. The bear chuckled, praising the girl's flawless one-shot knockout. It was the first time he'd seen someone deliver a beatdown with zero martial arts. Still, even though garden number 6 was the absolute gutter, only the most elite spiritual seeds could survive here. The bear slyly suggested the boy should milk this for all it was worth. Park rubbed his bruised chin. She said she'd be watching his progress until the bruise, grand harvest. If he flexed his farming skills enough, he could totally beg for top-tier crops, like for instance those heavenly peaches he stuffed his face with earlier, or maybe mythical tier loot. He vowed to turn the 6th garden into his personal power leveling zone. He would violently protect this dirt, ensuring no arrogant immortal ever harmed his family in this ruthless, dog-eat-dog world. But to achieve ultimate power, he actually had to do some hardcore gardening first. Scanning the area he designs, realized this dimension was an absolute dumpster fire. Digging through his trusty inventory backpack, he found his gear totally everated, fried to a crisp. Not shocking, since he went completely overboard in his last boss fight. Staring at his charred blade, he whispered that it had saved his neck way too many times, thanking the weapon for its loyal service. The bear watched, totally baffled by this deep emotional anime monologue. It was literally just a magical twig, yet it burned brilliantly, without a single regret. Suddenly, the ruined sword exploded into a colossal legendary world tree. Massive roots violently tore through the barren earth. The bear's jaw hit the floor, completely glitching out over this insane miracle. A burnt spirit should take at least 30 days to respawn. But this was instant hacks. Unfazed Park simply commanded the surrounding forest to awaken. Channeling his aura, he spawned an army of giant wooden golems. He casually ordered the terrifying beasts to do his boring farm chores. The monster squad immediately started analyzing the soil. The bear was losing his mind, screaming that Park just casual summoned ancient living tree spirits. Even high-tier heavenly immortals couldn't pull that off. But our exhausted main character, he just yawned, saying his mana bar was totally drained and he needed a nap. Strolling into his new crib, he was shocked by how ridiculously massive that was on the inside. He flopped down to cultivate, deciding to spam his mystical breathing techniques to recover his lost stamina, slipping into a deep trance. Boom. He instantly shot back up on his feet, his overpowered senses locked onto a mysterious plant perfectly syncing with his spiritual breathing. He swore the heartbeat was coming from right under the floorboards. Gripping his remaining magic seeds, he decided to unearth whatever secret loot was hidden down there. He started tearing up the floor like a crazed dog, leaving the bear totally flabbergasted, screaming about what the crazy kid was doing. Right then, something peeked out from the rubble. Boom. A sudden explosion went off. Park jumped out of his skin, squinting at whatever was buried down there. What the heck is this giant red circle? The bear casually chimed in, explaining it was a blood barrier. Whoever drew this had some serious supervillain levels of a grudge. Park figured the weird pulse was definitely thumping right below it. Time to smash. He started wailing on the barrier. And to his absolute shock, pop went the weasel. A hidden underground chamber appeared. This creepy basement belonged to the previous lord of the 6th Garden. The guy had left a very dramatic diary. It was basically a 1-star review, exposing the crazy atrocities committed by the Rochley, lady of the castle. Storytime. One night, after getting totally wasted with a buddy, this guy stumbled into a weird shrine. Turns out the local deity was playing host to a nasty ghost. Helpless and probably hungover, a supposedly nice scholar swooped in to save the day. The scholar busted the ghost right out of him. But then the dude dropped a massive bomb. You are good to go, bro. But wait. Surviving a ghost attack means your spiritual physique is totally waking up. Basically, if he stayed in the human world, he was a walking buffet, hunted by immortals or chased by creepy spirits. No sweat, though. The scholar totally knew a guy. Or rather, an immortal who could take him in as an intern. Falling for the oldest scam in the book, the guy marched right into the lady of the castle's pavilion. She promised that if he ground his levels hard enough, he could absolutely transcend. Spoiler alert, since he was born a squishy mortal. Reaching immortal status was like trying to catch a cloud with a net. So stuck at level 1, the poor guy ended up doing every garbage chore imaginable. His massive debt just kept snowballing. He honestly thought his life could not get any worse. Oh, but it could. Right around his 30th birthday, he met a kid who also just dropped in from the human world. The kid's spiritual physique was awake too. And the tragic backstory this kid had, it totally blew the guy's mind. Why? Because it was the exact same script. The realization hit him like a truck. He was not randomly possessed back then. It had absolutely nothing to do with that weird shrine. That so-called nice scholar had literally glued a ghost to him just to force his awakening. He had been played like a cheap fiddle from day one. Realizing he was stuck in a massive pyramid scheme, he refused to die a janitor. He started kissing up to absolutely anyone who knew even a little bit of earth magic skybe, begging for lessons. But alas, even after grinding all those skills, his fragile mortal body just kept getting older and weaker. The other immortals even gave him a super lame nickname. They called him Foxtail Grass, because he was always bent over from breaking his back, looking like cheap weeds on the side of the road. What a roast. With a nickname like that, he was fully preparing to just crawl into a hole and die. He felt utterly pathetic. But then, boom, a plot twist. The boss lady suddenly decided to reward him for his insane loyalty. He was instantly promoted to Lord of the 6th Garden. Talk about a golden parachute. Bawling his eyes out, he swore he would never forget her kindness. He pledged to work himself to the bone until his dying breath. So he completely nerded out over the 6th Garden's top-tier Earth Dragon art. His power levels literally went through the roof. He was this close to finally becoming a certified immortal mystic. Catch. But of course, there is always a catch. Despite being super overpowered, his body was literally crumbling away. That is when the horrific truth of the bowed Earth Dragon art slapped him in the face. Sure, it made you strong, but the garden's fancy herbs were completely sucking him dry. He was not a lord. He was walking, talking miracle grow. Realizing he was literally being composted to death, he knew it was game over. Reading this insane diary, Park's jaw hit the floor. Bro, this is literally a horror movie. Immortals are straight-up supervillains. He muttered that while his own job sucked, at least he was not literal plant food. The bear nonchalantly shrugged. Oh, that. Total standard procedure. Immortals use noobs like him to keep their fancy realm running, sweating bullets. Park suddenly wondered if he was next on the fertilizer list. But wait, the diary guy went through all that trouble to make a blood barrier. He was basically praying for an absolute beast of a main character to come along and burn this cursed place to the ground, leaving behind a hidden stash for the next poor sucker. He wanted them to take his stolen loot and run for the hills. Park stared at the shiny loot. Finders keepers right. He rummaged through the dead guy's stash. Oh, sweet. They were literal mandrake seeds hijacked from overseas. Fancy exotic loot. Then Park picked up another weird cylinder-shaped object. What the heck is this Pringles can? The diary completely skipped over it. The bear sniffed it and said, "Looks like a fortune-telling stick cut from a temple." Park froze. Wait a minute. That creepy heartbeat sound was not coming from the magic seeds. It was coming from the cup. Staring at the mystery artifact, he thought, maybe I should cultivate this. Boom. A sudden explosion. The stubborn object, flat out, refused to level up with him. Dusting it off, he squinted. What even are you? It felt weirdly familiar, like the hilt of a blade. Surprise. It was actually a sword. Meanwhile, the elegant lady of the garden was busy analyzing data. So he really went there, she mused. Suddenly, a wild girl appeared. Pardon the intrusion, but this is an emergency, she yelled, demanding immediate action. She claimed to know about a hidden treasure in the main palace. She wanted it back right now. The legendary seven-branched sword was an insanely weird artifact, priceless even in its homeland. Back in the day, that place was a total underdog nation. It completely failed to establish itself. Why? Because out of the three great kingdoms, only Bosch lacked the raw power to actually build a country. Sela was founded by some overpowered dude with a totally broken, irregular physique, and Goryeo, built by a literal saint, blessed by the absolute VIP ancestral spirits of the Korean peninsula. But King Anju of Bosch, he literally hard-carried a normal guy, using pure human effort, zero supernatural cheat codes. Against all odds, the guy awakened his trash-tier physique and snagged the ultra-rare gold element out of nowhere. Boom, instant martial arts master. He learned to flex his own energy. And King Anju, despite being a mere mortal, the man was an absolute genius. He pushed his champion to the absolute peak, but alas, thanks to his totally useless descendants, Bosch crashed and burned. History practically deleted them from the server. Yet one legendary glitch survived the wipe, a saint prince often compared to the genius King Anju, who expanded their empire's ridiculous power. And his ultimate crafting achievement, the seven-branched sword, a mythical god-tier artifact that belonged in a museum. Seriously, it was top-tier loot. Snapping back to reality, the lady calmly asked if they had actually secured the blade. The girl sweated. That is all we know. According to the server logs of the past, the king tried gifting it to the celestial boss. But the delivery guy literally dropped dead from natural causes. Talk about bad RNG. They salvaged the ship, sure, but the legendary blade itself, completely lost in transit. The lady raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. Are you seriously implying this seven-branched sword has a hidden axis? She found it super suspicious. It was almost like the girl had known about this secret axis for ages. Why bring this up just now? She probed. The girl scoffed. I did not come here for useless gossip. Flaunting the sanctuary's name, she boldly proposed a high-stakes celestial lease for exactly 6 months. Catching on to the hustle, the lady smirked. All right, what are the terms? The fierce negotiator slammed her cards down. They would wager the seven-branched sword's blade right in the middle of the upcoming turf war. If her side lost, they got to raid the lady's treasure stash. But if the sword's elusive axis was actually found there, she swore she would not touch another dime. Without breaking a sweat, the lady accepted the insane bet, just adding one spicy counter-condition. Fast forward 6 months later, a hyped-up squad was totally buzzing, setting up to live-stream the massive celestial brawl. Word on the street was the lady herself was going to drop a massive reveal. One guy panicked. Why are we even streaming this? Sure, the clout was great, but they were entering the 6th Garden's turf. They absolutely could not afford to piss off the local boss. Best behavior, guys. No aggro, he warned. Keep a low profile during the tour. A little while later, the squad arrived and their jaws dropped. What used to be a wasteland was now completely upgraded. Meanwhile, our main character, just chilling in the background, casually snacking and reading a comic book. Seeing the nervous newbies arrive, he did not even blink. The guests were absolutely dumbfounded by his zero-stress snack-munching vibe. One guy snapped, "Hey, show some respect to the VIPs." Park casually brushed the crumbs off, stood up, and hit them with a smile. "I am Park, Lord of the Sixth Garden." The loudmouth instantly choked, introducing himself as Lee, sweating bullets while reporting the turf's progress. Flashing a glowing system window on his smartphone, Park tilted his head. "Why are you noobs calling me senior?" Realizing this lazy slacker was actually a literal celestial immortal, the group's ET. Souls left their bodies. Park took another bite. "So is there a celestial deathmatch happening, or what?" Still trembling, they nodded furiously. The Supreme Immortal himself, plus the top 2 ranking players from the Japanese server, were joining the raid. Park just scratched his head. "News to me. I guess I really need to touch grass more often. You guys just going to hover here awkwardly," he joked. Lee bowed at a perfect 90 degrees, squeaking, "Yes, my lord." The kid was Lee. Rumor had it the trauma of the Korean War awakened his spiritual physique right after the shock of losing his family to a bombing. He eventually joined the ladies' pavilion. Sure, he faced a brutal demotion, but he still packed serious skills. All he needed was a true master to unlock his main character energy. Meanwhile, Park usually trusted mortals about as far as he could throw them. But this kid, he actually had manners, having quickly apologized for his goons acting up earlier. Park casually muttered how insane it was that he was about to crash the celestial fight. He totally bet he was the absolute strongest immortal there. Lee humbly replied that although he was a total weakling, the lady blessed him with a golden ticket to the grand tournament. Still, there were absolutely monstrous contenders lurking about. Take Go, for example, a near-pure immortal practically dripping with the royal bloodline of the lady's son. Lee nervously admitted he was lucky just to breathe the same arena air as him. Meanwhile, Park silently analyzed the polite kid. Somewhere else, the ladies' inner circle was in a deep gossip session, buzzing about the sanctuary, finally accepting their proposal. The mortal fanboys were cheering for them hardcore because they had slaughtered a few monsters. If they milked this whole national pride angle, they would totally rake in way more cash and glory than that other girl who merely killed one beast. Right on cue, another woman barged in to interrupt the scheming. She announced the Lord of the Sixth Garden was waiting for an audience. But the lady coldly told him to take a number. This was family time. However, the woman spilled the tea that Park had said, something extremely offensive. Hearing this, a hot-headed boy jumped up screaming about how a cocky newcomer dared to challenge his ego. The lady smirked. In her eyes, testing Park sounded like a brilliant free show. Rumor had it the hothead was hiding in the celestial rank just to dodge real competition. So if he wanted to silence the haters, he better step into the ring and actually show off his so-called legendary skills. Watching the drama unfold, the garden lady agreed. She openly challenged if he could even scratch Park naturally. The arrogant kid hesitated. Flash forward, and the two were squared up in the arena with the lady and VIPs, grabbing their popcorn. The brat glared daggers at Park, warning him to enjoy the smell of his own burning flesh. Park just blinked. Was this kid seriously giving him the death glare over some rumors? Before he could laugh, the judge shouted to begin the slaughter. The angry kid instantly spammed a barrage of flashy spells. Trying to not yawn, Park casually deployed a magical leaf shield. The brat burst out laughing. Did Park really think a flimsy pile of foliage could stop an ultimate attack? Those pathetic leaves were barely hanging on. He promised to end Park's gardening game, right here and now. He dramatically summoned a massive, blazing, magical meteor. With a psycho grin, he declared it was game over for our hero. But Park didn't even flinch. He casually readied his own magic smoothly, replying with an epic counterattack. He was the one handing out free tickets to the afterlife. Boom, the spells clashed violently, but Park's magic effortlessly swallowed the meteor whole. The brat's jaw dropped to the floor as his ultimate move got completely absorbed. Suddenly, a blinding, earth-shattering explosion swallowed the arena. Out of the smoke, a mysterious man literally teleported in, casually apologizing for ruining the fun. Before, Park stood this absolute unit sighing that he couldn't let a toddler get roasted. The winner was way too obvious anyway. The defeated brat threw a massive tantrum. He screamed that he could totally still fight, and the ref was blind, but the man shut him down instantly. Park's victory was absolute. His monstrous talent was a true blessing to the pavilion. Watching from her throne, the lady stayed quiet before nodding. She accepted the hype, knowing this mysterious man's words were basically law. Plus, Park was officially her new favorite toy. Right after the chaos, she summoned Park privately. The sore loser could only stare, wondering who that overpowered referee was. Later on, the lady was grilling Park, intensely curious about his insane training over the last 6 months. Park smoothly explained that by mixing earth, magic, with hardcore martial arts, leveling up was an absolute breeze. He slyly added, he knew she brought him here just to become her personal weapon. If she wanted something done, she should just bark the order. He gave a charming smirk, swearing she could trust him blindly. Treason wasn't exactly his style. The lady chuckled at his sheer audacity, asking if he had plotted this smooth talk from day one. She ordered him to keep crushing the tournament while she secured 2 sweet spots for his future. Just as Park turned his back, he dropped one final cheeky question. Could he take a quick vacation? Away from the drama. Cut to later, Park was casually strolling with the mystery ref. He figured that when the lady promised him a sidekick, he definitely didn't expect. This overpowered dude, smirking, Park finally asked for the big guys. The guy smirked. Dan Dio was the name, but Park could totally call him Ryong. Park raised an eyebrow, thinking, wow, talk about a mood swing. This dude was way more chill than their first dramatic encounter. Glancing over, Park asked, hey, you down for a drink right now? Fast forward, and the 2 bros were happily strolling and vibing. Ryong casually mentioned that Mortal Realm drama was absolute child's play compared to the Immortal World's chaos. Our main character just grinned. Seeing the Immortal having a blast totally made his day. Curiously, he asked, so I heard you shiny Immortals crash the human realm sometimes. You ever take a vacation down here? Ryong sighed. Yep, he actually died down here, first getting a VIP Immortal Pass thanks to some mysterious lady. But plot twist, he was absolutely crushed when he realized he was stuck in the clouds instead of the human world. Park's sweat dropped. Clearly, Mr. Overachiever here had a mountain of epic regrets left behind in his mortal life. Cue the dramatic flashback. Ryong confessed he once wanted his name etched in human history, hoping to be an absolute legend, even after kicking the bucket. Now he cringed, realizing it was just a super embarrassing, edgy teenage dream. Stuck as an immortal, he kept crying over spilled milk, obsessing over the shiny human things he lost and the epic stuff he totally missed out on. Yeah, I am rambling, Ryong chuckled suddenly, cutting his own tragic backstory short. He thanked Park for playing therapist, thrilled to finally get a VIP tour of the mortal world again. But suddenly, background noise interrupted the bromance. A wild mob appeared aggressively, protesting the greedy Dragon King's latest human sacrifice subscription plan. Ryong blinked in pure disbelief, turning to Park. Are you seeing this garbage? He was absolutely livid. A leader sacrificing his own people, trash tier boiling with rage. Ryong cracked his knuckles ready to throw hands with the boss. But Park yanked his collar. Hold up, hothead, a creepy black circle had just spawned, right above them. Solar eclipse. Nope, just some classic menacing villain aura. Boom, a massive explosion rocked the street. Panic mode activated as civilians desperately scrambled for their lives. From the edgy darkness, a cocky villain sneered that these weaklings needed a reality check. Bad move. An enraged Park instantly blitzed the guy, whacking him into next week with his trusty tool. One-hit knockout. But before he could celebrate, desperate cries for help echoed nearby. Wham! Park got blindsided out of nowhere. A smug voice sneered, well, look what the cat dragged in. The enemy mocked our protagonist for stumbling into the wrong server, gleefully promising him a quick and painful game over. Park sniffed the air. Musha's lapdog. The creepy energy was a dead giveaway, reeking of the exact same trashy vibes that crazy woman had radiating since he wrecked that statue. Plus, this guy was practically flashing a neon murder sign. Park smirked. What are you besties with the punching bag I just dropped? The villain barked back that Park's trash talk would not save him. Karma was here to collect the debt for all his past life's epic crimes. Crimes, bro. What crimes? Park laughed. Sick of the yapping, he instantly flexed his aura, casting a massive spell that swallowed the whole zone. Newsflash, buddy, you are the one paying up today. Suddenly, an army of creepy wooden figures spawned from the earth brutally, jump-scaring and completely steamrolling the villain's squad. The evil woman shrieked, "What are you idiots doing?" She frantically ordered her goons to unleash the Phantom Squad to rip Park to shreds. Cue the creepy ghost swarm. A horde of ghastly phantoms instantly locked onto our protagonist. Park just sighed. Did not want to use my secret weapon, but thank goodness for market day deals. Without missing a beat, he whipped out a sketchy little pipe and took a massive drag. Bam, instant buff applied. His strength, endurance, and focus skyrocketed to god tier. Grabbing a lethal-looking root, Park grinned like a maniac. I will not miss a single one of you, chumps. He began slicing and dicing them like a ninja. The woman scoffed, boasting that fighting her infinite ghost trees was like punching a mountain. With a toothpick, she screamed at her useless lackeys to spam more phantoms and finally trap this annoying bug. But then karma hit. Blood violently exploded from her mouth. In a split second, her entire squad of goons face-planted into the dirt. Writhing in hilarious agony, the supposedly tough villains started crying for their mommies. Park casually watched the clown show unfold. Did you seriously think I would just swing a basic sword at you? Cute. Staring at the pipe smoke, the woman's eyes widened in sheer panic. Park smugly revealed the ultimate plot twist. That drug detoxified him but exhaled highly toxic, deadly smoke for everyone else. Pretty sick area of effect, skill right. Coughing up her final breaths, the desperate woman pathetically cried out for her daddy. But right on cue, a massive explosion interrupted her sob story. A confused dude poked his head through the smoke. Did she just say, "Father"? While another guy, staring at the punk. Our main character totally mistook him for the celestial god Makosha. But then, the villain casually tossed a victim into the dirt. The poor guy gasped, demanding to know who these absolute lunatics were, and if they knew who they were messing with. But our hero's buddy just scoffed. Nobody cared about his tragic backstory. All that mattered was his unforgivable sins. Suddenly, the evil cultivator burst into a super cliché villain laugh. He mocked their righteous speech as utter garbage, telling them to carve those brave words into their tombstones before going to hell. Thanks to their meddling, 0 mortals were making it out alive. Park narrowed his eyes. This creep wasn't just hoarding corpses, he was sucking up their life force. Why waste perfectly good innocent people for a cheap power-up? This twisted demonic art was insanely overpowered. Our boy was sweating, completely clueless on how to block such a massive cheat skill. Should he whip out the 9-tailed fox fan? It was a total gamble, but hey, desperate times call for desperate magical artifacts. His buddy interrupted. This wasn't any cheap trick, it was the forbidden blood reincarnation art. How was this in the human world? He calmly turned to our main character, asking to borrow his sword. Amidst all this chaotic death and destruction, this guy was intensely in the zone. Park tossed him the blade. With one perfectly animated ultra-smooth slash, he completely bisected the giant sphere of doom. He coldly declared that judging a deity for messing with weak mortals wasn't his job, but murdering fellow immortals just to grind out some extra levels. Oh, that was a massive, unforgivable taboo. As a proper member of the immortal realm, it was time for him to take out the trash. Cue an insanely fast flurry of slashes. In less than 3 seconds, Mr. Evil Cultivator was chopped into absolute ribbons. Thanks to mortal cops finally doing their jobs, the surviving goons were handcuffed. Turns out these discount terrorists belong to the Rio Oblum organization. Cut to the boss lady angrily binge-watching the news. Some clueless talking head on TV ranted about how the police were useless and basically just filmed the epic boss fight for internet clout. The anchor zoomed in on the viral video, completely doxing our main character and his buddy to the entire country. The news host lost his mind. Wait a minute, isn't that our favorite local superhero from a year and a half ago? You know, the absolute unit who sliced the head off that massive monster bird. Fast forward. The sword-wielding friend was sweating bullets, bowing to his boss lady, and dramatically offering to resign from the immortal realm. He was ready to accept any brutal punishment. The boss lady shot a terrifying glare at Park. After causing this massive disaster, you still have the nerve to make eye contact. Park instantly folded, like a lawn chair, bowing and spamming apologies, secretly thinking, wait, she's not even actually mad, is she? With a heavy sigh, she ordered him to stand up. She wasn't calling his heroic monster slaying wrong, but maybe, just maybe, he could try not going viral next time, she told Park, to expect a slap on the wrist disciplinary warning, then kicked them out. A little while later, our main character happily dragged his exhausted feet back to his beloved garden. It felt like an eternity since he had seen his precious plants. He pulled out a super dusty secret scroll. Who would have thought this literal treasure was shoved inside that random statue? Honestly, he expected a legendary artifact, not some basic paper. Suddenly, the tiny spirit bear plopped right onto his head, squinting at the text. Hold up, I know that terrible handwriting. Park blinked. Did this guy's family owe the bear money? The fluffy spirit threw a tantrum. It is literally their fault. I am stuck looking like a plush toy. Ignoring him, Park analyzed the ancient document. It looked completely useless, but his manhwa protagonist instincts screamed that King Sang definitely wrote this. The text was basically a dramatic diary entry. The king knew his HP was hitting 0, but he wasn't sweating his own death. The only thing terrifying this royal badass was outliving his own son, that and the utter chaos he would be leaving behind. Poor Haiyang was literally fading away, shrinking every single day thanks to a ridiculously unfair deity's curse. Because of this, the king was stressed. Once he and his best friend died, some corrupt puppet, backed by arrogant immortals, would totally steal the throne. And boom, the whole kingdom would instantly drown in the blood and tears of innocent NPCs. History was a nightmare because gods had terrible hobbies. Before they could turn the world back into their personal playground, humanity needed an upgrade. Even regular folks without fancy spiritual bodies desperately needed a cheat skill to smack down these godly bullies. The king had discovered ancient runes from a brutal war way out in the northwest. Rumor had it, chaining these bad boys together unlocked insane magical buffs, basically turning simple text into raw, unfiltered firepower. If a genius could just weave these letters into a system, humanity could launch a massive counterattack. Park gasped. No way! Was he trying to invent a magical language hack, like the legendary Draco Bone script? The little bear bragged that the kid's genius was legendary. Even the immortals knew about it. Just one more year and he would have reached the absolute peak. But our hero just grinned. Oh, he was pretty sure that legend already pulled it off. Scanning the ancient text, a wild cheat code appeared. If you could read and write, you just needed to unlock the activation. Boom. Anyone could wield the almighty power of words. The creator's ultimate dying wish. He wanted those 28 divine characters to survive forever. An absolute shortcut to greatness. Reading this epic manifesto, our boy smirked. He gave a mental high five to the deceased king. Looks like your wild dream actually became reality, old man. Channeling his aura. Whoosh. The wooden blocks floated into the air. He was absolutely mind-blown by the sheer attack power. All this magic, just from words and sounds, meant to teach commoners. It was exactly like the legends claimed. Just picture the word in your head and speak it into existence. Burn, he yelled. Instantly, the targets erupted in blazing flames. Park Haniel stood there, jaw on the floor. Hyped out of his mind, he started torching everything in sight. Suddenly, that annoying furball, the little bear, popped up. Who is making all this racket? He gasped. Why are you playing with fire? In broad daylight. You maniac, he dive-bombed Haniel's head. You couldn't spark a match without me yesterday. How? Watch out before you roast us all. Haniel totally ignored him, deep in thought. Wait. If I shout it, does the fire get stronger? Or does screaming just burn my throat? He paused his inner monologue, stroking his chin like a genius. If I string together a massive, super deep sentence, I bet I could summon something legendary. Time to test the ultimate move. He took a massive breath and roared. Oh heavens, weep and lament for me, he kept screaming. Sky, sky, sky. Cue the dramatic silence. Crickets. Literally nothing happened. Our mighty hero cringed so hard his soul almost left his body. Okay, that was painfully embarrassing. But wait. He felt a gaze. A senior student was watching his entire cringe fest with a huge grin. Face burning red, he panicked. How long have you been hiding there? The girl burst out laughing, totally roasting his edgy training. Hey, it is fine, she teased. I totally respect the drama. Her bright smile dealt critical damage. Haniel wanted the earth to swallow him whole. Trying to change the subject, he asked, what brought her here? Word on the street is, you are joining the celestial battle. She beamed. Then, she asked if he really crushed Sheol. You are leveling up insanely fast, she explained. She had been busy prepping for the big tournament and scored some epic loot for him. I was supposed to babysit you as your senior, but you are doing just fine without me. With a playful wink, she tossed a mysterious item his way. Haniel caught it confused. What is this? A sacred scripture, she replied cheerfully. A delivery request, specifically for your celestial battle debut. Who sent it? He asked. The senior casually dropped a massive bomb. A high sage. Oh right, it is your dad. Haniel froze. System error. His blood instantly boiled, as pure annoyance took over. Where the heck did you find a guy claiming to be my deadbeat father? She shrugged. I met him, in the sacred realm of Shinshi. Lore time. Ages ago the Sky Lord descended, offering magical mugwort to a bear and a tiger seeking humanity. The weak tiger quit, but the bear tanked the bitter trial. Evolving into a human woman, the Lord and the bear woman then teamed up, birthing a legendary king, and jump-starting the entire history of Korea, at least. That is the fairy tale they teach in schools. The juicy truth? She was absolutely not his official wife. The Sky Lord and his royal immortal family actually guarded the sacred tree of life, hidden in the bridge between heaven and earth. They ruled the divine city of Shinshi. The senior then casually revealed the craziest plot twist. Haniel's father literally married the immortal lord's youngest princess. The dude was living like royalty in the divine realm. She explained that she was packing up to leave the realm when this guy rolled up. He panicked, saying his son was drowning in palace debt, and absolutely doomed. So he scribbled down this super important item, shoved it in her hands, and vanished. Haniel scoffed in disbelief. He always thought his dad just ghosted them like a coward. The jerk blew their entire family fortune. On his own selfish partying, he left a mountain of crushing debt for his poor mother and grandmother to tank. That deadbeat dodged all responsibility. Because of him, his dear grandmother passed away in misery. Haniel's eyes turned colder than ice. So he started a shiny new divine family and tossed us out like garbage. The senior tapped the box. Hey, open it. It is a top-tier legendary drop. Reluctantly popping the seal, our hero found a mystical bamboo fan crackling with aura, a divine weapon specifically forged to absolutely wreck and seal demonic beasts. And ghost-busting? Now, a 24-blade fan is pretty decent. Over 48, that is top-tier loot. But get this. The fan our main character just bagged has 72 blades. Seriously, why did his dad drop such an overpowered item? The girl casually notes it is perfect as a ghost vacuum. If he actually wants to use it, of course. Park, meanwhile, is holding it like a winning lottery ticket. No way he is letting this ultra-rare artifact go. Stumben just smirks, knowing our boy chose the ultimate hardcore mode. Flashback to 8 hours before the big tournament. Our protagonist gets a sudden chill. His danger sense tingles. Somebody is definitely creeping around. Suddenly, Dak casually strolls into view. Spooked Park demands to know why he is stalking him. Dak shamelessly admits he needs a massive favor. Time to craft the legendary Flute of Peace. Lore drop. This magical flute first dropped back in the unified Silla era, but its blueprints existed way, way before that. Back in King Wangadao's reign, there was this absolute unit of a guy. Even the mighty immortals could not touch him. He was basically built different. Thanks to him, the immortals got totally nerfed, which gave the Water Dragon King an opening to throw a massive world-ending tantrum. Human casualties went through the roof. Desperate to hit the undo button on this watery apocalypse, the three rival kingdoms actually decided to play nice. Their top masters teamed up to forge a divine cheat code, the Flute of Peace. But this thing was so broken they had to slap 2 terms and conditions on it. Rule 1. Absolutely no leaving the Korean peninsula. Rule 2. No friendly fire allowed against the locals. Like literally, strictly forbidden. Dak points out it was only ever blown once in Silla to clap the Water Dragon King. After that, it ghosted everyone and completely vanished. Dak grins. He dragged our protagonist into this mess because he is obviously the local crafting wiki. Plus, the timing is chef's kiss. With the tournament hype, security is basically non-existent. Perfect time for a heist. Target the Black Jade Bamboo from Garden 2. They absolutely need this premium grass to craft the new flute. But if Lady Yua catches on, she is going to flip. We are talking a full-blown turf war with the Dragon Palace. Hearing this crazy pitch, Park realizes Dak is totally willing to take the fall. Why risk his own neck? It is definitely because of those massive protests they saw back in Gwanghwamuna. Dak is actually a decent guy, completely different from those stuck-up immortals. Park sighs and agrees to join the heist party. He cares about the people too, and honestly, turning his back on a heroic team-up just feels lame. Dak is hyped. He knew the main character would not leave him hanging. He yells that it is time to speedrun this mission. Fast travel activated. But when they finally reach the drop zone, Park looks up and his jaw drops. A literal floating island. Dak casually explains, it is just a custom-built sandbox by the pavilion. If they hack the spatial formula, they can break in. Easier said than done, obviously. Suddenly Dak yeets a tiny wooden toy horse. And boom, it morphs into a majestic black steed. Dak yells at Park to grab onto his hand. As they literally gallop through the sky, Dak vows to protect him from the incoming aggro. Park is just sitting there, totally confused. Until he looks back. A whole squad of flying sea monsters is tailing them. Dak immediately dumps our boy on the island like a bad taxi driver. He rides off to kite the mob, leaving Park to realize he is surrounded by enemy spawns too. Time for a buff. He chugs his Mandre potion. He remembers the magic system rules. The longer and flashier the voice command, the bigger the stat boost. So he screams speed up, and his agility goes through the roof. But wait, his radar pings with a super weird energy from 2 different spots. He crosses his fingers, hoping one of them is the Black Jade Lake. Surprise attack. A giant lizard jumps him. Park barely dodges. He starts sweating because this random mob feels way stronger than a literal god. If this thing is a wood type, his elemental matchup is total trash. But our boy just smirks. He is already roided up on his potion. No way some overgrown gecko is passing his vibe check. The lizard dashes in. The protagonist screams, summon, and an absolute unit of a brown bear crashes into the scene. The lizards instantly, "Nope, out of there." But the bear is relentless. The beast growls at Park to keep fanning the flames. Our boy chuckles. No wonder this guy is literally called the God of the Fire Mountain. Out of all the big shot peaks, spirits rocking the evil title are seriously rare bosses, and out of that edgy VIP club, only one has the innate pyromaniac passive skill. Legends say that back in the day, the locals not lice were terrified this mountain's fire would literally roast all of Seoul. To stop the barbecue, they panic-built a giant water moat around it. That lake nerfed his fire stats for centuries. The lizards retreat, and the giant bear yells for backup. Park narrows his eyes. Why are these mobs fleeing straight toward that massive energy source? Honestly, it is. Obviously the Jade Lake, acting as an overpowered fertilizer for this island's crazy flora. Climbing to the very top of a long, massive tree, he spots the lizards running to a turtle-shaped ruin. Jackpot. Could that finally be the Black Jade Lake? But it just looked like a boring rock. Suddenly, the tiny bear demanded to be dropped right into the danger zone. The boy blinked, admitting he had never witnessed anything so bizarre. He warned the furball about instant regret, but the beast just shrugged, blinded by pure curiosity. Swoosh. One wave of his mystical fan and boom. The tiny pet exploded into a colossal raging brown bear, smashing the scaly lizards into dust. The giant scoffed at how incredibly pathetic they were. But hold on. Sneaking in the dark cave, an eerie presence locked onto him. Splosh. The giant bear was instantly trapped in a nectar, floating water bubble. Panicking, the mighty beast cried out for his master. Pop. The protagonist shattered the watery prison with a flick of his aura. Park Haniel smirked, realizing this was the hidden boss, acting as the island's magical compost. Back to bite-sized, the bear gasped in shock, seeing that a monstrous entity was actually lurking inside. Hanel narrowed his eyes. Was this a baby mythical Heitai? Wait, if an infant is this overwhelmingly huge, an adult would be a walking natural disaster. He scoffed at the plot twist. This was no ordinary lake, but a captive divine beast fueling some arrogant jerks, massive ego, and the greedy Leaf clan. The little bear sweated, pointing out this toddler was easily 2,000 years old. And judging by its chaotic, wildly out-of-control water magic, the oversized baby lacked zero basic skills, gripping his folding fan with a devilish grin. Hanuel declared. This was the perfect sparring partner. Terrified, the fuzzy sidekick squeaked, asking if his master had lost his mind. Hanuel just chuckled, waving the fan, promising a massive jar of sweet honey as trauma compensation. Swoosh. He ruthlessly sucked both monsters right into his magical fan. Trapped in the magic, artifacts dimension, an epic, ridiculous brawl immediately broke out. Hanuel nodded proudly. Perfect fit. Snapping the fan shut with a sharp clack, he coolly announced their exit. Cut to the aftermath. Trudging along with the noble Duke, a young survivor bowed deeply, praising the hero for their flawless, totally non-disastrous escape. But Hanuel frowned. Why was Duke panting like a tired dog? Then it hit him, his regal companion was secretly bleeding out. But Duke waved it off with a stubborn smirk, claiming a quick nap would fix the gaping wound. Yeah, right. Hanuel chewed his lip, painfully aware. Their next deadly death match was just hours away. Suddenly, Duke shoved a mysterious object into Hanuel's hands. He brushed it off as mere pocket change for carrying him through that absolute nightmare of a quest. The truth. It was a legendary artifact forged by actual twin dragons from the mythic Flower Garden. Duke sighed dramatically, acting like this priceless treasure was a cheap dollar store gift, apologizing that he couldn't loot anything better. Hanuel just stared totally speechless at this casual flex. Duke chuckled, telling the kid to wipe that super serious scowl off his face, since he easily deserved the entire world's treasury. But Hanuel's mind was racing. The ultimate grind wasn't over. He still had to craft the legendary Flute of Peace, and his gamer senses tingled. A doomed scenario was brewing, where Yua's twisted clutches might actually trap them, shaking off the dread. The young hero tossed Dio's arm over his shoulder, deciding to bail. Dio smirked, praising the kid's humble hustle. The two battered survivors limped off, with exhausted grins. Hanuel secretly fanboyed. Dio was an absolute unit, a total beast in both divine and mortal realms. He swore to himself that he would grind his stats until he could proudly call this legend his big bro. Boom. Fast forward to the arena. The hype train arrived as the crowd went wild. The flashy announcer roared, welcoming everyone to Dokdo in the fierce Eastern Ocean. 0 punches had been thrown. but the sheer electrifying aura of the fighters was already suffocating the audience. The rules dropped next. Classic tournament arc vibes. A brutal team versus team survival, where only one squad walks out alive, but whispers erupted in the stands. Fans were sweating, complaining this year's bracket was completely broken and unfair, throwing otherworldly monsters into the mix. Meanwhile, Hanel squinted at Duke from across the stage, completely dumbfounded that the guy was faking perfect health just hours after almost dying. Flashy protocol time, global big shots stepped up to mic drop their often self. Respectful greetings to the ancient water dragon king. Basically, they begged the scaly boss not to rage quit while they trashed his oceanic living room. Suddenly, high-tier sorceresses started chanting. The deep waters violently churned between the Korean and Japanese coasts. Boom. The two landmasses magically slammed together. The insane reality-bending power of the sages. They literally hacked the water dragon's raw energy to generate a massive supernatural battleground. Only the most elite overpowered freaks were cherry-picked by the VIPs to survive this deadly draft. Enter the VIP referees. A slick-masked woman styled herself as SA, vowing to ref the bloodbath with absolute, ice-cold fairness. She dramatically swore her actual life to protect Yua, Flash Step. A second masked edgelord dropped into the arena, flexing his title as Odin. He echoed the same boring pledge of honor and justice, but fiercely swore to defend the sacred 7 branches until the last man standing. Beep, beep, beep. Out of nowhere, Hanel's inventory bag started glowing like a radioactive disco ball. Boy panicked. That masked judge had to be packing the legendary sword of the 7 branches, because Hanel's own mystical axis was ringing like a crazy alarm. Creak. The ancient sword box forcefully blasted open. The weapon thrashed around like a wild beast waking up. But Odin quickly slammed it down, sweating as he apologized. He awkwardly laughed, claiming his temperamental blade just throws a massive tantrum whenever it smells a worthy rival. Yet it was totally bizarre for a masterless weapon to act like an overly excited puppy. Odin bowed his head, super embarrassed for crashing the epic opening ceremony. Yua just smirked, dropping a sassy remark. If that busted blade actually held the blacksmith's god-tier mojo, the masked dude should really learn how to leash his pets. Hanel's eyes went wide. Bingo. That had to be the infamous broken sword, earning its edgy name, simply because it unapologetically snaps every other weapon in half. The lore stated it was literally forged from the hardcore bones of Valhalla's humans. They packed some serious heat. The young man suddenly realized. That crazy sword's aura must have been blocked by the masked dude. If he had not played the hero, that blade would have flown straight at him, all because of their synchronized energy. The masked guy definitely smelled a main character nearby, someone strong enough to wake the blade. Moving on, the announcer screamed that Liang was up first, facing off against a literal celestial immortal. Suddenly, someone plopped down, next to our hero, and sighed. What a total shame. It was Go Hua. Our boy blinked. What is a shame? The sassy girl rolled her eyes. Just watch the fight, genius. I hate spoon-feeding exposition. When our protagonist glanced back, at the arena, Liang's opponent unleashed a swarm of wind demons. The weasels rushed the poor guy. He barely blocked them and tried to strike back at the immortal. But nope. Before he could even blink, the wind weasels spun back around and slashed him to shreds. Our hero watched in pure shock. He could not believe his eyes. How did that celestial, immortal level up so ridiculously fast? Go Hua just smirked. Getting the picture now, she teased, betting he was super confused about how the guy was dominating without a single weapon. But honestly, even if Liang was getting stomped, he needed to realize that pure energy was the ultimate cheat code. Plus, this whole tournament was basically a giant flexing contest between Korean and Japanese awakeners. Heck even, the royal family had their popcorn ready. The secret goal, put on a jaw-dropping show that no one would ever. It was the perfect chance to restore the Go family's lost honor and look incredibly cool doing it. They needed a viral moment of Koreans totally wrecking the Japanese fighters. At first, Liang was just bait, but surprise, surprise, the guy actually staggered back to his feet after the weasel tornado. Still, Liang was looking like absolute garbage from that attack. His health bar was flashing red, and the demon weasel cuts were making him bleed like a broken fountain. The announcer grabbed the mic, panicking about whether the Korean team would actually choke in the mic. Very first round, Liang screamed and tried one last heroic strike, but instantly got swatted down again by those pesky wind weasels. Totally humiliated and battered, he face-planted into the dirt, entirely out of hit points. Game over. The announcer officially handed round 1 to Japan. Go Hyunhwa turned 2. Our hero with a grin. Aren't you happy? Thanks to that epic fail. The enemy's expectations are literally at rock bottom. She patted his shoulder, totally confident. You have got this one in the bag. We just need to steal the spotlight and look utterly amazing. The protagonist cracked his knuckles and stood up. I will do my thing, he declared, and by my thing, I mean completely destroying them. As he strutted into the arena, the announcer hyped him up as the internet-famous guy from the crazy street incident. The cocky immortal who just beat Liang scoffed. Oh great, another weakling, lining up to get thrashed. You guys are pathetic. But before he could even finish his villain monologue, boom, our hero teleported and smashed his fist straight into the guy's smug face. The whole stadium went dead silent. Jaws hit the floor. Our boy had literally just one shot, the Japanese champion. The Korean fans went wild, but some panicked, yelling that rushing in blindly was super reckless. Dio, however, just pushed up his glasses. Actually, that was beautifully efficient. The girl beside him was bewildered. Efficient. He threw himself face first at the enemy with 0 defense. How is that? A martial art? Dio just smirked. It is a technique because, well, that is just how he rolls. Back in the ring, our protagonist casually chugged a potion. Ding, vitality boosted, blood production maxed out. He burped slightly. Nice buff, but honestly, a heavy-duty healing potion would have tasted way better. Next up, a brand new challenger from Japan stepped into the ring. The boy hit her with the ultimate death glare, making the poor girl sweat bullets. Still, she tried to act tough. I will not hold back, she squeaked. She slammed her hands down, summoning massive samurai statues. Ah, a long-range coward, our hero muttered. She does not want to get punched in the face. He clenched, his fists again. The girl grinned, ready to block his signature one-punch attack. But joke is on her. Instead of throwing hands, a colossal wooden giant burst from the ground and grabbed her samurai. The girl's jaw dropped. Wait, he has summons too. The protagonist smirked. Time to show you the true Korean way. He activated his Sounds of Power skill and literally started blasting a Korean military marching song. The crowd was utterly confused. Why is he doing karaoke mid-battle? He belted out the lyrics, hyping up his giant to never retreat and smash the enemy, screaming that the nation's pride was on the line. Fueled by the ultimate patriotic buff, his wooden colossus went absolutely feral on the mast. Samurai statue? The girl panicked. But crunch. The samurai's head got instantly obliterated. The protagonist just smiled. Ah, the sweet sound of victory. The brilliant plan actually worked. The crowd's jaws hit the floor. Park just clutched 2 back-to-back victories. But our boy knew the golden rule of surviving. Never show your full hand early, or the next guy will completely counter all your surviving. Flashy moves. Besides, this entire tournament was just a circus act to entertain the snooty Yua family. Poor Lee got handed the absolute worst script, sacrificing himself like a total clown. But Park, he refused to be a loaf. Background extra, he was going to be the main character. The announcer hyped the stadium, shouting that 2 Japanese Arfer, immortal tier bosses just got smoked. Now a pure immortal stepped up. The ultimate boss battle was starting. Could our Wazin, overpowered hero, clutch a 3rd win? Squinting at the new challenger, the crowd started whispering. Was this guy a Badit, literal ninja? Park instantly felt the pressure drop. This dude's aura was terrifying, completely on another level from a standard celestial. Yep, definitely a pure immortal. Without warning, the ninja started chucking deadly kunai straight at our own hero. Park frantically spammed his wooden dolls to tank the hits. Boom. A massive explosion rocked the arena. The 5 ninja blitzed in again, but Park barely dodged the fatal strike. Surprised, the kunai were rigged. Boom. Our boy went flying like a ragdoll. The ninja went for the kill shot, but Park panic cast a dodge spell. That psycho almost chopped him into sashimi. Time to stop holding back. Park instantly charged up a massive counterspell. At the blide, pesky ninja. Meanwhile, the spirit bear was throwing a tantrum. You abandoned me, it cried. Park just smirked, asking who this edgelord ninja even was, and what his problem was. I will explain the lore later, Park brushed off. Checking out the ninja's drip, he spotted the famous Suzuki clan crest. Very few dared to wear the legendary pride of the mutter, the 3-legged crow, grumpy and ready to brawl. The bear decided to use the ninja as a punching bag instead of scolding Park. A pure, immortal easy pickings, it bragged, unleashing an absolute barrage of heavy paws. At the brag, sweaty ninja. The enemy's armor actually started melting away, smug as ever, the bear laughed. At this rate, I will sweep the floor with this guy, winding up for a flashy finisher. It prepared to end it. But wait, Park frantically yelled to stop. Within seconds, the vibe got totally cursed. That puddle of melted armor suddenly started slithering straight up the bear's legs. It wasn't normal metal. It was liquid magic steel. Panic mode activated, screaming for his master. The bear begged for an ice buff. A light bulb went off in Park's head. Hold on, buddy, I will freeze that junk right now. As the frost magic kicked in, the spirit paused. Wait, this mana feels super familiar. Looking totally bamboozled. Boom. A humongous ice spirit just spawned in front of him. The trapped bear shrieked. Who summoned this giant fridge? Please let me go. The commentators were losing their absolute minds. They screamed that our hero's ultimate move was blinding the whole stadium. Moments later, the tough ninja was literally crying. He glared pathetically at Park. He had suffered enough, the humiliation was maxed out, and the poor guy looked completely out of gas. He was definitely about to hit the surrender button. But plot twist. A mysterious lady stepped in. A fiercely, terrifying aura exploded around her. This is just an exhibition, she declared. A friendly little get-together, organized for peaceful relations. She flashed a fake smile. No need to brutally murder our precious prodigies over a simple show match, right? Park just stood there, keeping his poker face locked. From the sidelines, his two buddies watched the absolute drama unfold. Park quickly read the room. Ah, so this ninja has plot armor. He realized this VIP was way too valuable to lose. The lady dramatically sighed, claiming she was so deeply embarrassed for feeling pity toward Node, her fighter, and ruining the sacred duel. Because of my little oopsie, we will humbly forfeit and withdraw. Our ninja, she announced. Park blinked, thoroughly baffled by the shameless excuse. The elegant Yua stepped up, praising their hard work. She announced Park's insane 3-win streak. Who knew this commoner was secretly hoarding such ridiculous overpowered gear, she marveled. Park mentally rolled his eyes. Nice compliment, lady, but you still sound super condescending. He casually shot back. I would have flexed way harder if you actually gave me a heads up. The noblewoman tilted her head. Whatever do you mean she played dumb? Park chuckled sarcastically. Thanks to your little ambush, I am now super famous among the normies. Did you honestly think us awakened hunters were just clueless idiots? Meanwhile, the defeated ninja was still glaring daggers at him. Park glanced back. Man, I actually feel incredibly bad for that loser. Later, catching up with his female teammate, she gave him a thumbs up. Good hustle out there, too bad you got played. Park shrugged. I survived, didn't I? No, not you, dummy, she laughed. In the showbiz world, clueless guys, like you are just stepping stones. You might have mad skills, but they will totally throw you away when you are useless. Park totally held back his true power. Destroying the kid's reputation wasn't on today's agenda. So, Park put on an Oscar-worthy performance and forfeited. He figured if this was a soccer match, it was like benching your star striker right before a guaranteed win. But seriously, the crowd definitely wouldn't cheer for a boring one-sided beatdown after all that juicy drama. Meanwhile, the kid admits he didn't expect her to know about internet trends. She just smirks, saying it's rare in real life but practically everywhere on social media feeds, asking if being trendy was really a crime. Park thought it was super weird, but hey, he respected the hustle. The announcer grabbed the mic for the next round. But suddenly, the entire arena violently shook. A massive freaking tsunami spawned out of nowhere. Surfing the wave, some arrogant guy demanded to see the traitors. Park was absolutely clueless about this sudden plot twist. But the girl whispered the terrifying truth. They were the sons of the Water Dragon King. The aquatic prince yelled that excuses wouldn't save them from his wrath, since they blatantly violated the sacred dragon laws. Did these fools really think a fake tournament could hide their sketchy black market treasure trading? He graciously offered to spare their miserable lives, but only if they instantly coughed up the traitors. Delivering his father's royal threat, he demanded the immediate return of the stolen 7-branch sword axis. If they got on their knees and begged, maybe his royal dad wouldn't obliterate them and return their confiscated loot. Naturally, the stubborn crowd wasn't exactly thrilled by this ultimatum. The Sea Prince scoffed at their ignorance. He gripped his weapon with murderous intent, declaring that his raging waters would swallow them all whole. Unsealing an apocalyptic flood, he prepared to drown the entire stadium. Park just stood there sweating. Things had escalated way too fast. Still, he couldn't waste this chaotic opportunity to secretly fuse the divine axis with his own blade. Spotting his target through the watery mess, he figured triggering an aura resonance might just do the trick. However, before he could even flex his magic, a colossal water dragon swallowed the arena, completely submerged. Our hero realized holding his breath wasn't a vast, winning survival strategy. He had literally zero options left. Park dramatically unsheathed his enchanted blade. Smirking at his own genius as the spell worked, he blasted out of the flood. But fate is a comedian, and he splashed, right back into the salty waves. Cursing his terrible luck, he knew he had to escape this giant bathtub immediately. Suddenly, a blinding, ridiculous glow illuminated the deep. Park's weapon was mutating into something entirely new. This aura was off the freaking charts. Could this terrifying power spike be the legendary golden energy from the Axis? Uncorking a legendary seal naturally unleashes an absolutely mind-bending, overpowered surge of magic. But wait, this was way too much juice. It was literally crushing his own mana reserves. If he didn't vent this godly pressure right now, his mortal body was going to pop like a balloon. Desperate, he unleashed a single slash. His jaw dropped. That one panicked swing literally sliced the fabric of space and time. Before he could apologize to the universe, the magical vortex sucked him straight into the void. Fast forward, and our hero face-planted into a totally bizarre dimension. Dusting himself off, he stared in shock. Where in the multiverse was he? His overpowered sword had definitely glitched reality. This place was far creepier than those weird dimensional garden gates. Should he swing again to open a portal home? Nah, maybe checking out. The neighborhood first was a smarter idea. But before he could even take a single tourist step, bam! Something blindsided him. A shadowy figure emerged through the dust. Park squinted. Wait, wasn't that the raging ninja from the tournament? That sore loser was so incredibly salty that he literally stalked Park through a dimensional rift. The shinobi rudely stomped on Park's chest, boasting about his vast arsenal of deadly top-tier ninja tools. But being a generous killer, he let Park pick his own execution weapon. Park just stared blankly. I don't speak. Anime buddy. Annoyed, the ninja ordered him to pick a weapon fast. So, Park casually plucked a weird plant from the dirt. The shinobi laughed hysterically, calling him a pathetic dirt-digging coward. Sure, Park had won his matches, but only by hiding behind his overpowered summons. Did this scrub really think pulling out a magical weed would save him? The ninja promised to make Park eat dirt. Unfazed, our hero just tilted his head in pure confusion. Suddenly, the innocent little plant mutated into a grotesque nightmare. The ninja's eyes rolled back as he tripped on hardcore hallucinogenic spores, instantly face-planting into the dirt. Park sighed. Never touch alien weeds, bro. Right before his eyes, the ninja coughed up a literal waterfall of blood, crumpling to the dirt like a broken toy. Park bragged about taking the assassin down, but his victory lap was cut hilariously short. Out of nowhere, another voice echoed straight up, calling our hero a moron. It was the human-faced bear, casually noting that every single time they met, Park was already beaten to an absolute pulp. The bear rolled its eyes, suggesting Park just chug a magic potion to bounce back, like he usually did. But our guy groaned, saying his face probably looked like hot garbage, and begged the beast to give it to him straight. The spirit bluntly confirmed that the ninja had absolutely pulverized his kidney. Park panicked, feeling his life force leaking out like a broken faucet. If this mess kept up, he would completely bleed out his mana and painfully kick the bucket. Sighing, the spirit reminded this stubborn fool that he really didn't have to carry the world on his own shoulders. The furry sidekick pointed out that Big Boss Dak had his back, so his inner core still held the spicy energy of a supreme immortal. That godly buff Dak handed over was still kicking hard even before this crazy new transformation. The bear hyped him up, shouting that he possessed the dragon's blessing, an ultra-rare cheat code capable of smacking down literal gods. He roasted the kid, asking if a total newbie who hadn't even hit his 100th birthday was already eager to meet the Reaper. Honestly, getting chewed up by a bear would be less embarrassing than dying like a dropped sack of sad potatoes. There was zero chance Dak wanted his pupil going out like a total loser. With his last breath, Park muttered a pathetic apology before dramatically passing out. Meanwhile, the villainess Yua was busy yelling at a terrified servant to get lost, secretly planning to off him later. She aggressively ranted that these local peasants knew absolutely nothing calling them ungrateful savages since this domain belonged to her. The crazy snake lady whined that nobody appreciated her so-called kindness in deleting that guy. And now, these fools had the absolute nerve to rebel. Remembering his annoying words, she scoffed, convinced the Dragon King wouldn't ruin a godly war over such a totally ridiculous lie. Where did that scaly boomer even hear this garbage? He was clearly trying to force a main character into this heavenly brawl. Even though her ego trip plan to become a worshipped goddess totally flopped, it wasn't a complete waste. Because of this, she decided to grab some popcorn and wait. Soon enough, the severed heads of the Eastern Sea's finest would be delivered, right to her doorstep. Back to our sleeping beauty, Park finally woke up groggily, wondering if he overslept. Checking his internal monoflow, he happily realized his bottom core was almost fully healed. Blinking the sleep from his eyes, he was super confused. Why on earth did he suddenly have horns growing out of his forehead? Plus, his senses were ridiculously dialed up. But whatever he figured, he was only knocked out for a quick nap. Surprisingly, his body felt suspiciously clean for a guy who almost died. Looking around, he guessed someone had played nurse while he snoozed. He bet all his money it was the grumpy bear and Sunbee, wondering if they were still hiding in the same spot. Since he swallowed that magic pearl and spammed his bamboo fan to build a safe zone, Sunbee probably risked her own neck to keep him breathing. Throwing the door open, Park marched out to find his savior. But his jaw completely dropped at the sight outside. How did this tiny little camp turn into a massive jungle? He only planted a tiny botanical shield, but now the trees were huge, meaning his quick power nap was actually a massive coma. Peeking past his giant hedge maze, the outside world looked like a literal war zone. He immediately guessed Sunbee had gone full berserker mode out there to protect him. But where was she hiding now? Suddenly, a weird rustling sound echoed. Dashing over like an action hero, he prepared for the worst, only to look incredibly confused. There was a literal cabin chilling in his forest. Creeping out front was a shady blue monster, and then it hit him. This was his own familiar spirit. The little guy had grown insanely huge. Park laughed, asking why his own pet was shaking like a leaf. Was it scared of his cool new horns? Out of nowhere, the beast lunged. But Park just effortlessly sidestepped, scolding the giant puppy that biting the guy who feeds you is bad manners. Hearing his voice, the goofy monster finally realized who it was, hitting the brakes and stopping its attack instantly. Park chuckled, calling the deadly beast cute. He noticed its power level. He hadn't really spiked despite munching on that magic pearl, probably because it dumped all those stats into repairing its damaged core. Glancing around the camp, Park raised an eyebrow, spotting a pile of familiar clothes dumped on the ground. He dug through them, praying for some useful loot. Jackpot. He spotted a mysterious scroll. Squinting at the weird text, he wondered if it was written in Japanese, guessing it was dropped by that dead ninja from earlier. If he remembered the Spirit's tournament gossip right, this crazy crowcrest belonged to the Suzuki clan, hiding the legendary secrets of Yagarasu. He grinned, realizing these were magical assassin clothes. A transforming ninja suit. Now that was the kind of epic loot a main character could actually use, just to wear them. But wait, Park suddenly flinched. What was that aura? He could feel the unmistakable scent of danger drifting from a nearby battlefield. Sneaking a peek, our boy spotted a shady squad. What were they up to? They were literally smashing his barrier, taking in their bizarre outfits and wild hair. A crazy thought hit him. Were they from that realm? His jaw dropped. Those weapons looked exactly like the legendary Goblin Club Wano gifted him before the math finally clicked in his brain. This was a literal goblin gang. But wait, why were mythical goblins crashing the sacred space of his seven-branched sword? Did these punks think this was their personal playground? This was an outright turf invasion. Watching them hammer away at his magical wall, our hero cracked his knuckles. Time to kick some goblin butt. But plot twist. Emerging from the monster mob, a mysterious figure stepped up, demanding to know who this random kid was. Little did they know, Park was the boss here. He smirked, asking who was running this clown show. Stepping forward with surprising manners, the goblin captain introduced himself as Tu. His one demand, take him straight to the master of the sword. Park played dumb. Why was a goblin looking for the sword master? What was his beef? Tu dramatically sighed. This sacred zone was VIP only. Only the true master could grant access. And if this kid didn't spill the beans right now, it was off with his head. Park scoffed. Yeah, right. He crossed his arms, refusing to say a word until Captain Ugly explained his master plan. The goblin growled, revealing his grand scheme. Beat the living daylights out of the swordmaster. Ages ago, their king promised a worthy hero would arrive, wielding the legendary blade. But spoiler alert, he ghosted them. Park's sweat dropped. He was totally clueless. But clearly his seven-branched sword had some serious historical baggage. Boiling with rage, the goblin yelled that they had waited centuries for this dude. Generations of goblins got stood up and they were absolutely fed up. Whoever this so-called worthy hero was, he was getting jumped today. The captain shoved his weapon forward, demanding an immediate VIP pass to the master or Park's head would roll. Our main character just stared at the angry mob, totally unbothered. Instead, he casually asked, "Have you seen a giant red bear around here?" The goblin sneered. Oh, that furry idiot. It refused to break the barrier for them, so they showed it who was boss. Since this was their turf, they tossed the bear into a maximum security goblin jail. Park's blood instantly boiled, but he took a deep breath. Keep it cool, he thought. At least his pet was alive. He looked the goblin dead in the eye and confessed, "I am the sword master." The goblin burst into hysterical laughter. A liar and a wimp. If you want a beat-down kid, just ask Park's eye. Violently twitched. The sheer disrespect. The monster roasted him alive, calling him a scrawny, weak little twig who had never thrown a punch in his entire life. Face burning red, our hero grumbled that these guys were absolute morons. The captain waved him off. Look, kid, if you are not unlocking this magical door, get lost. We won't squash you if you run home to mommy. Gripping his artifact, Park's aura flared with comedic rage. Nobody talks down to him like that. Time to unleash hell. He pointed dramatically, ordering his familiar to launch. The ultimate attack. Seeing the projectile, the macho goblin completely lost his mind and ran for his life. In 3 seconds flat, the whole squad was crying on the floor. Park smirked. Act up again, and I will force feed you guys more red beans. The mighty goblins bawled like babies, begging for mercy. Park chuckled. Wow, folklore was right. They are terrified of red beans. So, is your boss actually tough? He asked. Trembling, the minion hyped her up. She swings a crazy magic staff. Park just yawned. A stick swinger. Is that supposed to be scary? Spill the actual stats right now. The goblin squeaked out one last secret. She holds a supreme golden artifact. Suddenly a chilling voice echoed, telling the brat he knew way too much. Dropping from the sky like a boss, a fiery red-haired woman entered the chat. She ruthlessly roasted her own squad for blabbing top-secret intel to a stranger. Feeling the intense pressure, Park realized this gorgeous menace was the final boss. She dragged her minions through the mud, furious that these idiots made her step in. As punishment for their epic fail, she sentenced them to 10 years inside a mystical trap. In a flash, they were sucked into her divine relic. Park's sweat dropped. That must be the golden cheat item they cried about. If she could casually seal her own guys, she was no joke. Better hit her with a surprise red bean barrage. He instantly fired his ultimate goblin repellent, but she sidestepped it like an absolute ninja. She smirked, teasing that cheap tricks only work on the weak. With a flick of her wrist, massive spirits burst from her relic. Park gulped, feeling the terrifying aura. Okay, she was way out of his league. Sweating bullets, he readied his. She unleashed her spirits. A spectacular clash shook the battlefield. The goblin boss grinned, asking how he liked her. Flashy moves. It had been ages since she felt such a thrill. Park stayed quiet, a dusty memory, surfacing in his mind. Someone once said that staff could grant any wish. But right now, that sounded like pure garbage. His bear spirit had warned him about the goblin staff. It runs on pure imagination. Since goblins share a single brain cell, they fight on pure instinct. Zero strategy. Plus their freakishly strong bones give them insane physical stats. Honestly, if these meatheads actually tried, they could probably conquer the world. Snapping back to reality, Park sized up the goblin boss. Was her imagination actually working overtime? She was not a total idiot like the rest. She did not even flinch at his red beans. Sweat dropped down his face. How was he supposed to counter this? He eyed the barrier. Maybe he could use it as a trap. Bam! The boss charged. Eyes on me, human, she roared. Park barely blocked her bone-crushing swing. How dare you look away during a deathmatch, she yelled. Park deflected her heavy blade and vanished. He launched a sneaky strike from her blind spot. Whoosh! She dodged it by a hair. Frustrated, the boss spammed her. Spirit summons boom. A direct hit. A massive shockwave ripped through the air, sending Park crashing into the dirt. Is that all you have got? She sneered. Ready to wrap this up? Get on your knees and beg. She commanded her spirits for a final strike. She figured once this pathetic human started crying, she would seal him away with his pet. But Park slowly stood up, smirking. He who laughs last, laughs loudest. Boom. Wooden golems spawned everywhere, and they were dual-wielding jars of red beans. A literal tsunami of beans hit the boss. But wait, her overpowered artifact just sucked them all up. Park chuckled. You wanted to hear me scream. Big mistake. He snatched her precious artifact and yelled, Bear, get your furry butt out here. Poof. The fluffy spirit popped out. I knew you would save me, master. Then it immediately started nagging. You took forever, you idiot. I was getting depressed. Park rolled his eyes. Do you even know how long you were in there? Over 150 days, the bear whined. Time was totally warped here. If the time dilation was that crazy, Park knew they needed to bounce. Fast. We need to leave now. He popped the artifact open, freeing the trapped goblins. He glared at the woman. Are you seriously the boss here? The goblin lady stared him up and down. You are kinda short, but you have got nice shoulders. What? Park felt a critical hit to his ego, his face flushed red. Hey, I am completely average height, okay. She shrugged. My mom always said size does not matter. Initially, she thought that was total nonsense, but this tiny human had just kicked her butt. She looked at him dreamily. You are smart and honestly not too ugly. I have decided, she announced. Marry me, human. Park's brain just blue-screened. Wait, what? The bear gasped dramatically. Oh my gosh, are we having a wedding? Do we need to hire a caterer? Is this legal? Will it even hold up in court? The bear panicked. Park's jaw hit the floor. What the heck are you talking about? The bear sighed. Dude, are you blind? This is obviously about the 7-branch sword prophecy. Park's eyes went wide. The ancient prophecy, the legend spoke of a destined hero, wielding a very specific blade. They were not just guarding it, they were hoarding it for her future husband. Look, lady, that is not me, Park yelled. The guy you are actually waiting for, he is probably rotting in a ditch somewhere. The bear shook its head. She does not care about logic, boss. Park was having a meltdown. I am way too young for marriage. This is a nightmare. Wake up, wake up, wake up, he slapped his cheeks. He glared at his bizarre bride-to-be. Where is the sword? Tell me, or I will force-feed you red beans until you pop. He cracked his knuckles, looking completely unhinged. But the goblin boss just crossed her arms, smirking. No way, you do not get the sword. Until we make 3 cute little babies. Spit, take beery her. In beans now, Park shrieked at his golems. The bear just face-palmed. Boss, torturing your fiancé will not work, the bear sighed. Park gritted his teeth. Goblins were legendary for their stubbornness. Breaking her will by force was a lost cause. The bear nudged him. Hey, why not just bite the bullet and marry her? Think about it. They have been isolated forever. They have 0 social skills. Park glared daggers at his treacherous pet. You cannot brute force a crazy goblin lady. Plus, they are obsessed with that artifact. Come on, boss. Time is basically fake here anyway. What is a little honeymoon going to hurt? Maybe he should just surrender, marry the monster, and call it a day. But seriously, Park realized that brute force was getting him absolutely nowhere. Time for Plan B. If threats fail, deploy the ultimate weapon of bribery. Soon, after our feisty goblin bride fluttered her eyes open, only to find herself bound like a burrito with a tantalizing snack nearby. Just then Park caught her glaring at him. True to her stubborn nature, she immediately yelled that her lips were completely sealed. At least, until he put a ring on it. Park just shrugged, completely unbothered. He told her to carefully ponder her life choices while he happily munched away. Oh man, these rice cakes are absolutely heavenly. Watching him chew so disrespectfully, the goblins. Hunger completely overpowered her pride. She shamelessly begged for a tiny bite. Park tossed one right into her mouth and boom, she ascended straight to culinary heaven. Drooling, she flashed him puppy dog eyes for seconds. Our main character just sat there watching. This absolute monster inhaled the snacks like a vacuum cleaner. Mid-chew, the goblin pointed a warning finger claiming this food bribe wouldn't win her hand in marriage, though she casually added they were still destined to have 3 kids. Choking down, the treats Park mercilessly announced that only 2 rice cakes remained. Instant panic. Huge dramatic tears flooded the goblin's eyes, begging for just one more taste of heaven. So Park ruthlessly grabbed another piece, leaving a single survivor. As he slowly ate it, the poor goblin's soul shattered into a million pieces. She tragically whimpered about just wanting a husband. Park casually offered that. Weddings could happen any time, but today was definitively not the day. Utterly betrayed, the goblin gasped, accusing him of playing games. She bet he'd make her wait 100 years and nobody has time for that, sliding her. A fresh plate. Park sealed the deal. He threw in the ultimate bonus package, a masterclass on cooking these exact legendary snacks. Hugging her precious food, the goblin melted instantly, accepting the sweet compromise. Meanwhile, our chaotic protagonist weirdly realized he wouldn't have minded getting hitched at 12 years old. Fast forward a bit and the goblin busted out some flashy magic, summoning a highly suspicious ancient-looking box. Park's eyes sparkled at the thought of treasure. But the goblin completely killed the vibe, saying her mom just tossed it to her as a hand-me-down. Rummaging through the junk, she finally struck gold. She shoved the item toward our bath, Hero ordering him to hold out his hands. She proudly declared it their official engagement ring. Sweating bullets. Park awkwardly asked what the heck it actually was. Seeds, she beamed. Park blinked in absolute confusion, wondering if he was supposed to start a farm. But then, his jaw dropped. Let us drop some lore. Modern folks totally ignore goblin fairy tales these days. Everyone is just obsessed with getting overpowered items and leveling up. But goblins, they are brutally honest creatures driven entirely by their moftons, weird obsessions. They actually hate hoarding loot, tossing epic items and skills around like cheap trading cards. However, anyone holding top-tier abilities usually acts like a stubborn dragon guarding gold, which makes trading a complete nightmare. So, the ultimate cheat code for goblin diplomacy: just bribe them with something they desperately crave. Like, say, delicious food. Works every single time. Examining the seed, the bear chimed in, guessing this tiny thing held crazy value. He nudged the young man to squeeze more intel out of his new fiancée. Park's sweat dropped, wondering if he was actually allowed to pocket this epic loot. He called over the moss goblin, who was already calling him her beloved darling. Park smoothly interrogated her about the seed's origin story. The lovesick monster explained her. Granny smuggled it from another dimension. Time for a flashback. The original owner was some big-shot minister she brought up earlier. A legendary guy known for growing magical herbs and casually hopping across different universes. But classic tragedy struck when he was forced to cure the incurable, failed miserably, and got tossed in a dungeon to starve. In his final moments, he traded the seed to Granny just to keep his family off the chopping block. Park raised an eyebrow. An interdimensional herbalist. Suddenly it all clicked. That frustrating medicine book he had been breaking his brain trying to decode definitely belonged to that poor guy. The goblin continued her gossip, mentioning the guy's boss was an absolute monster of a warrior. A sword-swinging, horse-riding tyrant whose ego was literally as massive as the sky itself. Shockingly, that arrogance caused the tyrant's epic downfall. She guessed a massive war broke out, turning everything into a catastrophic mess. Which is exactly why the desperate minister threw the road seed at her grandma just to teleport his family away from the absolute bloodbath. Park scoffed, asking if that power-hungry madman dragged innocent kids into a war zone. The goblin nodded. He couldn't handle the emotional damage of losing them, so he made the ultimate sacrifice. What a genuinely tragic dude. Park chewed on the word loss for a second. Honestly, losing someone sounded way worse than just getting punched in the face. Suddenly, the goblin leaped up, practically vibrating with excitement to continue their weird ceremony. Park instantly went into panic mode, telling her to chill out. Ignoring him, she grabbed her magic staff like a baseball bat and just started furiously whacking our hero. Wait, what? Surprisingly, it didn't hurt a single bit. But the crazy lady cheerfully announced she was forcefully injecting something straight into his soul. Park just stood there blinking. Buddy, I literally feel zero difference right now. The goblin smirked, telling him to take a chill pill. She promised he'd unlock this brand new overpowered cheat skill eventually. Glancing back at the mysterious chest, the final puzzle piece, the legendary 7-branched sword. Park popped the box open, and boom, there lay the sacred blade. The bear squinted. Weapons of this tier usually leak massive aura, but this bad boy, totally dead silent. Suspicious much. But hey, its core element was wood. Why hesitate? Park smirked casually, reminding his furry friend that Earth naturally countered wood. Panic hit the bear. He frantically begged Park not to stop no matter what. Seeing a spark of aura, the bear yelled to just grip it and rip it. Park grabbed the hilt, and instantly, a blinding pillar of light swallowed him whole. The sword bucked like a wild stallion. The bear screamed, "Hold on for dear life." Annoyed by the lack of faith, Park scoffed. Did this furball seriously doubt his grip strength? The sheer force was mind-blowing. The bear's jaw dropped. He had never seen our guy flex this hard. As absolute god-tier energy exploded everywhere, and just like that, the temperamental blade totally surrendered. Pure silence. The bear wiped a tear. It was like watching a legendary war god tame a mythical beast. The 7-branched sword was no joke. Meanwhile, Park just stood there blinking. Honestly, he totally winged it, but holding it felt like muscle memory. Must be that overpowered talent she tossed his way. Feeling cocky, he flashed the goblin a smirk. Hey, want to get married right here, right now? Cut back to modern-day Earth. The lively little spirit cheered, declaring that interdimensional trip a total blast. Park took a deep breath. Man, it felt like ages since he inhaled that sweet, polluted Korean air. He actually wanted his spirit back sooner, but dunking on that goblin boss totally drained his mana reserves. Crawling to Bear Mountain was impossible, so the nearest city had to do. He dragged the goblin along. Though she was basically a chaotic toddler, she casually dropped a bomb. 7 whole months had passed since his tournament. The internet was still going crazy over it. Plus, the top dog of the Eastern Court was completely missing in action. Keyboard warriors and reporters were throwing massive tantrums. Why did the Eastern Court invade uninvited? And the three royal princesses of Korea totally getting cancelled online for going completely ghost mode. A month in the Dragon King finally showed his scaly face. Oops, my bad, just a tiny little miscommunication. Yeah, right. Absolutely nobody bought that weak apology. The public was still out for blood against both sides. The bear scratched his head. Wait, where were the Western and Southern Sea Dragons hiding? Park shrugged. Nope, not his circus, not his monkeys. Those guys probably hated the Eastern Sea faction anyway. The spirit giggled. Duh, those giant lizards just loved stirring up spicy drama for absolutely zero reason. Dragon family reunions were always toxic, except that one time they teamed up to body humans in the ancient war. Scrolling through the chaos, Park rubbed his chin. The real headache. The whole mess surrounding his new sword. The sword's grumpy guardian had actually snitched to the Nordic Council. He stayed in Korea just to bully the Eastern Sea. All this global panic, totally Park's fault for accidentally kidnapping the sword to another dimension. That guardian dude was insanely overpowered, and his creepy obsession with the blade was absolutely no joke. Realizing a monster like that was actively hunting him down gave Park some serious nervous sweats. The bear snorted. The Eastern Sea goons were certified clowns. Now even regular humans wanted to beat them up. Ding, a cute system prompt popped up. Your time is over. Thank you for giving us your money. Logging off, the bear nudged our guy. So boss, what is the grand master plan now? Park stretched. Next stop, Wanak Mountain. He was officially a dead man walking on the government registry. If he respawned right now, the garden faction would instantly smell something fishy. Total stealth mode required. Lay low, grab some popcorn, and watch the world burn. The bear nodded casually, mentioning that. He urgently needed to check his original physical body. It had been way too long since he felt a pulse. The connection completely snapped the second they hit the goblin zone. He figured returning to Earth would fix the lag. But nope. 0 bars. Dead silence. Naturally, the furry guy was starting to panic. Park's eyes went wide. Wait. 7 months with 0 body connection? Bro, are you actually dead right now? That is a massive problem. Emergency abort. They ditched the city and practically sprinted all the way back to the mountain. Fast forward a bit, panting, they finally reached the spot only to drop their jaws straight into the dirt. That tiny sapling, now a ridiculous towering megatree dripping with giant beehives, Park just stared wondering, could actually pierce that ultimate barrier. The bear brushed it off, claiming a random bug or two always, manages to sneak inside. Glancing at a rustling branch, Park raised an eyebrow. Suddenly, the spirit bear gasped, absolutely shook. Right there in the dirt, another bear was taking a nap. The spirit panicked, blurting out that his physical body was acting super weird, and he had 0 clue why. But before they could process this, a terrifying swarm of bees locked onto them. Park did not hesitate. He whipped out his legendary scroll and artifact. Instantly summoning his spirit squad, he commanded them to wipe out the swarm, kicking off a chaotic brawl. Yet, the swarm was endless. Park sweated bullets, realizing these pesky bugs were built like tanks against his skills. He desperately needed massive firepower. Right on cue, the spirit bear flexed, unleashing his terrifying true form, and, prepared to body slam the swarm, Park yelled at him to chill out. The fiery beast roared back, bragging that he could incinerate every last bug with his flames. If that hive wasn't in the way, he would have totally nuked the place. But scorching the sacred tree was absolutely forbidden. He scratched his head, wondering how to evict the swarm without burning the whole forest down. Meanwhile, Park's brain went into overdrive. He stared at the crawling bugs, realizing brute force was basically useless against them. Then a light bulb went off in his head. He hatched a wonderfully toxic plan. Park ordered the giant bear to step back and let the master work. Without missing a beat, he chucked a mysterious item straight into the swarm. The effect was instant and hilarious. The invincible bugs started dropping like flies, desperately fleeing the tree and awkwardly face-planting into the invisible walls. Seeing this comical retreat, Park exhaled, incredibly smug that his barrier trap worked perfectly. The bear, completely baffled, wondered aloud how these mutant bees even found this hidden spot. He recalled an ancient myth about the goddess of the West who allegedly constructed a legendary paradise called Golden Peak up on a mountain. But she had been off the grid for ages. This divine fairy, from ancient myths, was ridiculously famous for brewing top-tier immortality potions. Pointing at the massive trunk, Park connected the dots. He guessed that centuries ago, these wandering bees, they were house hunting, took one sniff of that sweet immortal scent, and instantly declared this tree their luxury apartment. Dusting off his hands, our hero noted the coast was clear. The toxic smoke had totally vanished from the area, so he casually invited the bear to loot the place. They cautiously tiptoed up to the massive tree and cracked open the hive. Inside was an absolute jackpot of golden honey. This wasn't normal syrup, it was literally radiating. Pure, unadulterated spiritual energy. Park's eyes turned into dollar signs, wondering if he could hoard this glowing nectar and stockpile it in his inventory. He was already dreaming of brewing the most overpowered elixir in history. Poking around the honeycomb, he stumbled upon some fat, squirming bee larvae. Gross, but they were very much alive and packed with insane protein-rich nutrients. Throwing all logic out the window, he tossed one into his mouth. Strictly for science, of course. Ding. The system instantly chimed in, announcing he had just consumed a magical drug known as royal jelly. And the side effect? A massive explosive growth spurt. Chewing thoughtfully, Park complained that for a honey-soaked bug, it honestly lacked flavor. Meanwhile, the bear stared at his human buddy in absolute horror, asking why his forehead was glowing like a light bulb. Seeing actual horns popping out, the spirit screamed, accusing him of being a dragon's secret love child. Trembling, the bear demanded answers. Park just shrugged, guessing it was a weird side effect of the dragon powers he ate earlier. The bear lost his mind, screaming that humans don't just sprout scales like they were born reptiles. Park sighed, pointing out that his life was basically a walking glitch lately, gesturing to a very suspicious scar on his body. Inspecting the mark, the spirit broke out in a cold sweat, asking if Park was actually going to survive this. Our hero asked if the bear had a clue, but the furry spirit aggressively shook his head. He explained that dragons are born holding the ultimate authority over water, training their crazy martial arts for thousands of years. That insane grind is exactly what makes them walking, talking legends of the natural world. But humans are built different. They can casually hack the system and absorb multiple elemental forces. So, if some crazy guy combined human hacks with dragon genes, they would be flat out invincible. Park was basically on track to become a literal raid boss that Earth had never seen before. The bear warned that his mortal shell might explode under that ridiculous pressure. But Park just smirked casually, noting his body hadn't even reached its final form yet, making this terrifying energy way harder to control. The bear whimpered, realizing the kid's core was already supercharging those new shiny horns. Chugging too much energy could literally turn him into a full-blown dragon. But since he was still a puny human, he could totally suffer some nasty side effects. Plus, if he actually went full scaly reptile, he might be permanently evicted and forced to live underwater like a glorified goldfish. Our boy starts sweating over this scaly career change, realizing his sprouting horns meant he could slurp up water attributes. And hey, if he just left those magical larvae alone, they would evolve into super bees. Then boom, infinite honey glitch, and even more juicy larvae to farm. The ultimate passive income. Shortly after, our hero declares that he desperately needed to master his insane buffs. Thanks to that mysterious lady's pill, his crazy aura didn't just explode and kill him. Instead, his energy levels skyrocketed. Since the elixir was rocking that would attribute it, was literally his glowing lifeline. He starts questioning the elemental rock, paper, scissors of his chaotic stats. Some expensive elixirs were completely useless, probably because his wood trait was throwing a tantrum. So if he chugged a potion that countered wood, he could unlock those other elemental cheats without blowing himself to pieces. The bear nods at this big brain strategy, asking what exact skills he friend was planning to grind. He smirks and whips out a massive stack of cheat codes from his inventory, revealing secret manuals from the Celestial Wolf's disciple. Oh, and a shiny shinobi scroll he totally looted from that ninja family earlier. Since he was basically bored out of his mind here, he figured it would be hilarious to master their deadly arts. Grabbing a scroll, his eyes sparkle with greed, declaring he absolutely had to learn that broken shinobi technique. With his 7-branched sword equipped, he was already juggling 3 legendary artifacts. The bear snorts, admitting the kid had overpowered gear and a solid plan. Now he just had to grind levels and avoid drawing high-level enemy attention. But suddenly, our main character frowns, remembering a super annoying side quest. He still hadn't dumped that black jade on his brother Dioki. The bear rolls its eyes, asking why he was hoarding the stupid sprout after all this time. The furry spirit couldn't fathom why he was so obsessed with handing it to that kid. Sure, the boy had a massive brain, but his worldly experience was literally zero, and he knew they wanted to craft a magic flute from that jade sprout. Did he honestly think some newbie could pull off a double S-rank crafting job, especially with such a dangerously cursed item? Calling our protagonist a complete idiot, the bear brags that he knows a legendary crafter who could easily forge it. Shocked, Park asks if he seriously had a flute-making god on his friend list. The bear scoffs, saying even if he did, he wouldn't dream of giving the final loot to Dioki. But our boy tells him to chill. He greedily wanted that epic flute for himself too. The bear, narrowing its eyes, asks if he was bluffing. The boy casually shrugs, swearing he wasn't since delivering it to Dioki or keeping the broken weapon for himself, ended up with the same awesome result. Buying his excuse, the bear orders a fast travel to the hidden forge. The master blacksmith he was, hyping up, was literally the god of fire. Eons ago, he cleared his cosmic debts with his divine family, and for that reason they were marching straight to Mount Kua. Park blankly asks where the heck that was. The bear smugly replies that his navigation wouldn't work because it was in North Korea. Park's jaw hits the floor. He frantically asks if his furry companion was a North Korean spy, and wait, since when did he have a sister? The bear sighs, saying the kid's lore knowledge was trash. The sacred mountain named after his sister was entirely different from the mortal maps. After all, this mighty beast wasn't just some local mountain spirit. But get this, his legendary nephew was Dangun. And according to top-tier myths, in the peninsula, there were 3 absolute powers reigning there. And the bear's overpowered sister was chilling in Azadal on Mount Kua. Fast forward through the travel montage, our dynamic duo arrives at the hidden zone. Park was totally freaking out, realizing he actually crossed the border into North Korea. Regardless, this secret realm was supposedly the highest level dungeon in the nation, but he squints, seeing absolutely nothing. The bear morphing back into his cloaked human avatar warns him not to step out of the safe zone. Park complains that the minimap said they were still miles away, but the ancient spirit smirks, declaring they had already crossed the threshold. Suddenly our boy jumps back in. Absolute shock. 2 massive, terrifying statues came alive, booming out to demand their identities, since uninvited noobs were strictly banned from entry. Calmly, the spirit nudges him, whispering to announce that the legendary Red Bear of Mount Guanik was here to crash their party. The stone golem pauses to process this, while the bear confidently adds he tossed them a treat. Park just stood there impressed. These tough guys totally panicked when they realized who this spirit was. Seeing him now, he definitely gave off VIP noble vibes. But honestly, Park still hadn't grasped how this crazy place worked. Suddenly, our boy's legs turned to jelly. Tumbling into the dirt, he groaned about a massive head rush, his jaw practically dropping. A ridiculously massive city had just spawned right before his eyes. He realized they used heavy magic to cloak the entire village. Seriously, how did they cram so many NPCs in here? The bear casually dropped that not everyone was exactly a saint like him. So before playing hide-and-seek away from humans, they acted like bouncers, cherry-picking only the VIPs worthy of entry. The golden rule. The absolute power over who gets to breathe or die belonged entirely to his own nephew. And hey, that guy generously let a bunch of folks stick around. Park internally sweat-dropped, comparing him to a certain supreme dictator up north. Just then, a suspicious mob rolled up on our hero. A random guy declared that the big boss demanded an audience. The spirit blinked, basically going, "Wait, who's even in charge right now?" The messenger bowed, announcing the Great Mother waited at the main estate. She demanded to know who the extra guy was. The spirit lied, claiming Park was just his trusty little minion, buying that ridiculous excuse without blinking. The guide signaled them to follow. Fast forward, the squad hiked to the VIP zone. Meanwhile, poor Park got the hostage treatment, casually rocking a tight blindfold. The guide announced they finally arrived. Standing in the dark, Park guessed they had reached the legendary main house. Even blind, he sensed this palace was ridiculously gorgeous. But honestly, the vibe felt super sketch. The blindfold came off, revealing a girl named Anju. And wow, she looked literally nothing like her royal title. With a sweet smile, she thanked their hustle, apologizing for the bother. A hot second later, the guy dipped out, leaving just our hero, the spirit, and the mysterious woman. She squealed that it had been forever, and she missed him like crazy. She totally tackled the spirit with a massive bear hug, now rocking his human skin. He stood frozen as she nagged. He hadn't changed, but ghosting her for years without any news had her panicking, suddenly dropping her voice to a terrifying whisper. She hissed, "You must be exhausted from dragging your feet here. Go get some beauty sleep." It only took a split second for our hero to read the awkward room. The girl waved it off, promising this terrifying mood was just temporary. Then she asked if he was terrified of her. She was his last relative from their feral forest beast days after all. But what really sparked her curiosity was Park. "Why is a literal dragon playing sidekick to my brother?" she demanded. Without hesitation, our boy yanked off his mask. He admitted it was easier to just be called a monster. Later they sat down to spill the tea. Park Hanu gave the entire wild recap of their crazy trip. Anju nodded along, but honestly, his lore sounded like total cap. squinting suspiciously. She straight up accused the kid of spinning a massive lie. Sweating, the young man swore he wasn't pulling a fast one. He argued Wanek's trust was the only reason. He got invited. Things got ridiculously messy, forcing him to keep his monster status totally hidden. So they crashed here, praying for a lifeline. Letting out a dramatic sigh, the girl finally bought his story. But, unfortunately, the fire deity was out of office. Park Hanu nearly choked, completely blindsided. Anju awkwardly rubbed her neck, explaining, the guy had already hit the road. But he was a family man. If they buttered him up with a gift, he might craft his legendary flute. Park internally screamed, then why did Wanek drag me here? If the fire deity had ghosted ages ago, this was a scam. The girl smirked, teasing that a smart kid should have figured it out. Piquing his interest, Anju spilled the tea. Her sneaky brother smuggled them in to get the boy drafted into Essel. To put it bluntly, he wanted our hero to hijack the soon-to-be vacant throne. Meanwhile, on a cool flying base, Dio and Yua were having an awkward staring contest. The girl broke the ice, demanding his thoughts. He shrugged, hitting her with a classic, nothing. She scoffed. Are you not hyped about crashing this super-exclusive war meeting? She asked. Especially since he begged to. Lead the charge and wreck the East Sea, Dax sighed, explaining his beef. Ever since that overgrown Sea Dragon King ambushed and swiped their legendary 7-branch sword, their damage reports looked totally tragic. Even worse, tons of innocent NPCs died from that tantrum. So yeah, forgiveness was totally off the table. No matter what happens, they'd make that scaly punk pay. Yua rolled her eyes, telling him to drop the edgy villain monologues. Because those sea critters were public enemy number 1, needing a total server wipe. And if he kept running his mouth, she'd straight up strip his admin privileges. Sweating, Dak immediately folded, playing nice. Next, the young woman mentally prepared for. So, the Big Bad Council meeting reached a brilliant conclusion. Step 1. Conquer the entire East Sea. Step 2. Slap a brand new dragon on the throne. After flipping the ocean upside down, of course. Now, whoever parks their scaly butt on that shiny empty seat, well, their newfound power could unleash a tidal wave of unimaginable disaster. Luckily for the higher-ups, dragons are currently out of stock, meaning no random lizard can just walk up and claim the crown. But the elders aren't taking any chances. To keep absolute control, they desperately need a puppet king. A pocket-sized dragon they can easily manipulate. Meanwhile, our boy Park Hano practically begs Onmyo to help hide his scaly secret so he can just chill in peace. But the lady hits him with a massive reality check, claiming the Dragon King title is actually his VIP ticket to a quiet life. Our snarky protagonist immediately shoots that terrible idea down, because even Haben Siemens, on a golden throne, they would just treat him like a glorified guard dog. And if there is one thing he absolutely despises, it is being someone's little marionette. Swallowing his pride, he bows his head. For the first time, he genuinely asks for some life-saving advice. After all, unlike the lucky heroes, he has exactly 0 trustworthy friends in this world. Onmyo sighs, admitting that hearing his tragic backstory actually makes her feel a tiny ounce of pity for him and his brother. Wait, his brother? Hano snaps his head up, utterly confused. The young woman's gaze sharpens. She refuses to let history repeat itself. Ages ago, she tried absolutely everything to stop her own brother from walking away into danger. She knew he was carrying the massive burden of protecting Mount Wanok. But in the end, leaving his duties behind just turned him into a completely miserable wreck. Not missing a beat, Hano casually offers to auction off his own freedom to pay the toll. Onmyo instantly rejects that terrible trade. She drops a lore bomb instead. To sit on that fancy Eastern throne, his core needs to overflow with raw water aura, like literally becoming the ocean itself. Otherwise, that seat is useless. Plus, let us be honest, our boy is looking pathetically weak right now. But lucky for him, she has a cheat code, thanks to B, her VIP connection with a former Dragon King. She knows a secret grinding spot, a hidden location bursting with sweet, sweet power, and she is handing over the coordinates. With this jackpot, he can finally level up his core and stop being a weakling. While getting his aura perfectly attuned, Hano realizes he needs to pull a vanishing act before Wanok wakes up. Still, a tiny part of him genuinely wants to leave a proper goodbye. Packing his things, our hero gives the lady a serious nod. He promises to never forget this massive favor. Fast forward 3 days. Hano's jaw practically hits the floor. He has finally reached the legendary throne of Mount Baekdu. And man, the pure energy radiating from this place is absolutely insane. Staring into the crystal-clear water, his inner loot goblin awakens. Are there hidden cores? Just waiting at the bottom. Without a second thought, he cannonballs right in. Surprisingly, he doesn't choke. His lungs adapt instantly, making him feel as light as a magical fish. Hitting the sandy bottom, a blinding light catches his eye. Bingo. The ultimate treasure is right in front of him. Just standing next to the glowing relic, he can literally taste the massive water aura forcing its way into his system. Greed taking over, he reaches out to claim his glorious power-up. But plot twist, the artifact stubbornly fights back. Suddenly, a massive shockwave of pure energy detonates right in his face. Yet magically, it doesn't leave a scratch. Instead, his wild core finally stops throwing a tantrum and perfectly balances out. But before he can celebrate, a terrifying, bloodthirsty presence locks onto him. Oh, right. Mio specifically warned him about this exact part. Breaking the Manga. Ancient Seal is basically ringing the dinner bell for local boss monsters. And since these creatures are born from the water itself, he is in for a seriously bad time. Hano curses his terrible luck. Breaching the surface, he comes face to face with a ridiculously massive aquatic monstrosity. But our boy is not running away today. Cracking his knuckles, he launches a bold, preemptive strike. Sadly, the beast violently swats his attack away like a pesky mosquito. Bam! A brutal bolt of lightning blasts Hano right out of the sky. A second giant serpent slithers from the depths, dripping with sarcasm. It mocks our hero, wondering how such a pathetic weakling could ever hold a dragon's aura. The first snake licks its lips, realizing that devouring this boy is their free ticket to evolution. But wait, the giant noodles suddenly notice something strange in the crater. Glowing pink peach blossoms. Through the smoke, Park Hano stands perfectly unharmed, smirking like a total boss. The lightning serpent laughs, mocking his terrible choice of funeral decorations. But as it unleashes another deadly thunderbolt, a massive magical peach tree sprouts instantly. Acting as the ultimate lightning rod, it absorbs the blast. Hano grins like an absolute menace. His 200 IQ trap worked perfectly. The scaled siblings stare in pure, dumbfounded shock. Getting cocky, Hano casually asks who exactly this funeral is for now. Seeing her brother losing his reptilian mind, the sister serpent steps up. Deciding to finish the trash herself, she unleashes a devastating barrage of deadly crystals. But boom! The lethal shards shatter instantly in midair. Hano whipped out his mystical scroll, deploying an absolute defense. Realizing this kid is secretly overpowered, the sister snake panics. She turns to suggest a tactical retreat, only to realize her cowardly brother has already bolted. Left completely alone, the battle abruptly ends. Seeing the danger pass, our boy drops the epic facade. He instantly collapses, coughing violently. Because using that much overpowered magic without proper stamina is a terrible idea. Park gritted his teeth. He absolutely couldn't lose here. If he choked now, this epic jackpot was gone forever. The giant serpents desperately slithered away. But bam! Our hero materialized right in front of their ugly snouts. How did he move so fast? Shocked, the oversized noodle hissed, demanding to know his magic trick. Who was this annoying pest? She cursed his ridiculous speed, swearing she wouldn't let him take another step. But Park simply smirked, charging a devastating attack. The creature's jaw dropped in sheer terror. Deciding she didn't want to become snake soup today, she instantly bolted, with a terrifying glare. Park ordered her back here right before delivering a bone-crushing strike. Utterly stunned, the battered snake wondered how a human possessed such absurd power. She mentally cried to her brother, realizing staying meant ending up a handbag. So, she had to run. She was so close to evolving into a glorious dragon, but her big dreams were crushed. At that exact moment, Park casually hovered beside her. Going somewhere, buddy. The terrifyingly overpowered weapon our boy used to brutally smack those twin serpents was the legendary Black Garden Bamboo. An ultra-sacred artifact from the ancient garden, specially supercharged for maximum combat destruction since ancient times. It was the perfect tool to completely paralyze these giant ocean snakes bound by fox magic. While, hopelessly tied up, the pathetic creature cried for her big brother. Meanwhile, Park blinked in absolute shock at the magical scenery unfolding. What the heck was this crazy domain? A hidden underwater palace. He figured this legendary secret dungeon must have unlocked itself since he finally claimed the core. Time for some prime looting. Suddenly, the captive oversized noodle started nervously, laughing. Sweating bullets, she promised to be a good pet, pathetically begging him to remove that horrible bamboo rod. It stung her scales horribly, and she refused to die like a squashed worm, chuckling at her misery. Park agreed, warning that any funny business meant blasting her head into orbit. Wearing his scary boss face, he demanded total honesty. Were there other ocean freaks lurking around? Terrified, she immediately snitched. She blurted that they sneaked in when the barrier dropped. Meaning, 4 more scaly siblings were slithering about. Park raised an eyebrow sharply, questioning how they sensed the broken seal. Trembling, the defeated snake confessed their very souls were tied here. She and her brother were just lowly ancient janitors, meaning they still served an overlord. Plot twist. 6,000 years ago, their mighty boss kicked the bucket, so these tryhards grinded for millennia to steal his empty throne. A sly smirk crossed Park's face. Free monster labor he promised to remove. Her agonizing curse if she became his personal VIP tour guide. The beast nervously asked for a pardon, complaining it was super embarrassing being tied up like a sausage. Poof. With a magical flash, the terrifying beast morphed into an Ulamant, absolutely gorgeous woman named Herrick. Unfazed by the waifu transformation, our hero ordered her forward. Walking ahead, the beautiful serpent wore a gloomy pout, whining about her beaten-up brother, though extremely glad they weren't snakeskin boots. Deep inside the mystic palace, they halted before a ridiculously massive door. Playing loyal secretary, Herrick explained this legendary fortress was powered solely by the dungeon core. Every trap and treasure was perfectly controlled by its owner. Since her ancient boss died, this epic hideout became a sacred sanctuary, instantly rejecting any weak losers at the barrier. Park was mostly baffled by the weird physics and an underwater dome with floating fish. He casually joked about building a sick aquatic garden outside, shaking off the weird thought. The duo marched deeper. Suddenly, Herrick stopped, dramatically announcing the fabled Dragon Palace Vault. Luckily, only the absolute boss holding. The core possessed the authority to open those epic gates, securing thousands of years of god-tier loot. Grinning wildly, our hero channeled his aura cheerfully, declaring ultimate unboxing time. With a heavy rumble, the ancient vault clicked open. Stepping inside, he noticed how suspiciously spotless it was. No dust. But his jaw completely dropped. Instead of golden mountains, a ridiculously huge bookshelf loomed over him, squinting at the covers. Park felt totally scammed. These boring texts looked like cheap thrift store junk. Flipping a page with zero expectations, he gasped. It was a legendary hidden martial arts manual. Seeing his shock, the gorgeous waifu proudly chimed in. Only supreme beings blessed with divine celestial dragon arts could comprehend them. Her late master had mastered every volume. Intrigued, Park casually asked what she and her scaly brother had studied for 6 millennia just to claim this dungeon. Sighing deeply, the snake girl admitted most wandering monsters desperately sought a superpowered master to carry their cultivation. But she and her brother were totally orphaned. Since their boss vanished, they had been blindly winging their magic training. For centuries, Park stroked his chin, connecting the dots. That completely explained why this greedy snake violently obsessed over reclaiming this sacred library. If her sob story was true, reading these holy texts could literally trigger their insane evolution into unstoppable dragons. Realizing he could farm 2 ridiculously overpowered pets, Park flashed a scheming grin, benevolently granting them the books. But obviously, nothing is free. He demanded absolute loyalty as his lackeys, to which the serpent enthusiastically promised eternal servitude. Tossing a dusty tome to his flawless new bouncer, he cheekily commanded her to welcome their upcoming guests. Park wondered if all sea critters were this weird. Plus, what did her brother even look like as a human a moment? Later, we catch a dude chilling at a table with drinks. Our boy is starstruck, never expecting a literal deity to pencil him in for a one-on-one chat. Sure, Park was just a freshly minted immortal, but he got VIP treatment, all thanks to his spicy dragon aura. Clearly, even Yuo had to put some serious respect on his name shortly, after the deity speaks up asking why the kid was crashing his palace so soon. Our boy, not missing a beat, casually whips out a bamboo stalk, hinting he desperately needed a massive solid. Squinting at the stick, the deity realizes it's the ultra-rare black jade sprout bamboo. Park flashes, a grin demanding he craft it into a flute of peace. Hearing this bold request, the deity chuckles, calling our boy a greedy little rascal. But Park, playing innocent, swears he wasn't planning world domination. The deity waves him off, saying there's no need to sweat the details. He just needed to chill. After all, crafting legendary loot was literally his day job. Examining the stalk, he nods, declaring it perfect for a top-tier flute, and promises to work his magic. Park internally fist pumps, totally impressed by his lightning-fast appraisal skills. Talk about a master craftsman. But wait, the protagonist slyly mentions a second item on his wish list. With a dramatic flourish, he rummages through his spatial spell, and boom, a wicked-looking sword materializes out of thin air. Park mentally pats himself on the back for looting this bad boy straight from the ancient Dragon King's personal stash. But the second he grips the hilt, a downright terrifying aura explodes. This wasn't just your everyday anger management issue. This dark energy screamed straight-up murder. It instantly made him crave violence like an over-caffeinated assassin. Sweating bullets, Park admits this edgy sword was a massive problem even if its stats were insanely high. The harsh truth, he was basically a noob who couldn't swing it right. Staring at the cursed blade, the deity notes its totally bizarre vibe. Without warning, the deity reaches for it. Park panics, yelling to pump the brakes since this wasn't a normal butter knife. But plot twist. The deity lifts the cursed sword like it weighs absolutely nothing, leaving Park's jaw practically on the floor. Our boy had been sweating buckets trying not to turn evil. Yet this guy handled it like a plastic toy. I guess that's the insane flex of the ultimate blacksmith, the legendary fire deity himself. Casually inspecting it, the deity drops some lore. The blade was fueled by a cursed energy from the northern dwarves. Its attack power was totally cracked, but it packed a vile debuff that would literally melt whoever wielded it. The good news, a custom-made scabbard could totally fix this glitch. With the right sheath to throttle its dark aura, Park could safely spam its attacks, but only the moment he drew the blade. Still, there was a catch. Even with the safety on this vampiric sword, wouldn't chill out until it tasted its master's blood. Talk about high maintenance. Park gulps hard, promising to keep that terrifying detail in mind. The deity then shoos him away, saying he'd hit him up, once the epic flute and anti-curse scabbard were ready. Meanwhile, our protagonist shifts to nerd mode, deeply analyzing a new scroll. He's absolutely hyped, mind-blown that such legendary loot existed in this crazy place. With the grumpy bear away, it was prime time to grind his intellect stats because you can never have too much brain power. Just then, the snake lady still rocking. Her human cosplay snaps him out of his study session to announce a random walk-in guest. A hot minute later, a totally unexpected boomer approaches, asking if Park was the new boss in town. He introduces himself as Tabik, repping the immortal sacred temple. Cue the history lesson. Back in the day, a legendary hermit lived on a peak between the 8 Jojian provinces, literally just acting as the ultimate fanboy for the nation's deities and throwing them sick ritual parties. But the real tea was way juicier. There were actually 8 distinct mountains, each packed with ridiculously overpowered immortals. So, the higher-ups slapped down a decree forcing the mountain to go back to its boring temple roots, purely worshipping the gods. Fast forward a bunch of years, the whole operation got completely scrapped. But now, the VIP gates to heaven were wide open again, and the modern Korean government finally greenlit the immortals to reclaim their holy turf. And this random old dude standing before our protagonist, he was the absolute big boss of the area, practically holding the shiny title deed to the mountain itself. Park quickly switches to customer service mode, politely saying it was a huge honor and apologizing for not kissing the ring sooner. But the old man totally brushes it off, claiming he was just taking a casual stroll and figured he'd drop by. Oh, and he casually mentions bringing his +1. A girl steps up, introducing herself as the elder's shiny new junior disciple, Shin. She politely bows, saying it's a total pleasure to meet him. Staring at her, our main character is totally shook. Recovering quickly, he awkwardly suggests they hit the VIP lounge and asks them to follow him. Cut to the trio, awkwardly shuffling down the hallway. Internally, Park is screaming. This girl had gotten a major glow-up, magically rebranding herself as this elite priest's personal student. Regardless, this unannounced pop-in was incredibly sus, leaving him sweating over what this boomer actually wanted. The old priest finally breaks the ice, raising an eyebrow at our hero's weird obsession with those basic bears. The main character sweats, explaining that those grumpy furballs were actually total divas hoarding heavenly treasures left. And, right, honestly, he only managed to bribe one into friendship after dealing with an endless mountain of favors. The geezer just chuckles. He points out that Park isn't even 100 years old, yet he's already reached the pure, immortal tier, with a flashy palace to boot. Such insane speedrunning is basically unheard of in the cultivation world. Pushing his disciple forward like a proud stage dad, he brags about her crazy talent and how she's touching the celestial immortal ceiling. Then comes the curveball. The old man winks, suggesting a little joint training session. Park tilts his head, utterly clueless. Wait, you want us to spar? The priest nods eagerly, claiming they'd make fantastic sparring partners. And hey, the old man adds smoothly she might just become your wife. Cue the record scratch. Park's jaw drops straight to the floor. The geezer acts like this. Forced matchmaking was his master plan all along. Meanwhile, the poor girl looks like she wants the ground to swallow her. She is absolutely hating this. Park frantically waves his hands. Sorry, Pop's romance isn't in my skill tree. But the old man is relentless. He warns that hesitating slows down cultivation. Plus, becoming his son-in-law comes with massive VIP perks. To prove he's the ultimate sugar daddy-in-law, he slams a mysterious jar right onto the table. Park's eyes instantly bulge out of his head. That elixir could perfectly mask his cheat-like irregular physique. He hasn't seen loot this overpowered in his entire life. Drooling over the top-tier treasure, Park admits it's ridiculously valuable. However, he rubs his neck, confessing he's already engaged. The priest just scoffs at his loyalty, calling him a stubborn kid. Physical attraction is natural, the geezer argues. What's wrong with building a harem? You're an immortal, not a peasant. Glancing sideways, Park notices the girl glaring daggers at the floor, totally miserable. But logic and sweet loot win out. Park sighs, accepting the crazy deal. Feeling a bit guilty, he agrees to take her as a student and future wife. Fast forward a few days, the training arc begins. Park focuses his aura and a mystical blue cloud pops up right between his fingers, smirking like a kid with a new toy. He admires the glowing aesthetic. He realizes that with a bit more mana, he could literally summon a localized rainstorm, and if his celestial demon god art hits 6 stars, boom, instant natural disasters on demand. Now he's hyped to grind for that 6-star upgrade. Suddenly, his snake spirit companion, rocking her human cosplay, interrupts him. Boss, the new girl wants room service, she reports. Park decides it's time to test her mortal manners. He tells her to enter. Meanwhile, the stressed-out girl stands outside his domain, sweating buckets. Being tied to a dragon's lineage is literally the wildest fate imaginable. Despite wanting to bolt, she endures this total nightmare just out of loyalty to her crazy master. Pushing the door open, she awkwardly apologizes for interrupting. Park is just chilling on the floor, totally relaxed. You made it, he yawns. I even decorated this room, in basic mortal style. Like it, blushing fiercely, she stiffly thanks him for the weird flex. Park instantly calls her out. Look at that sour face. You clearly hate being here. He scoffs, acting like an absolute villain. Did you seriously think we were equals? Please. He smirks. Did you think I wouldn't see through your master's little bribe? That treasure was bait, and you're just the side dish. Is this how the great celestial of Beck acts? Snap. Her patience shatters. Her eyes burn with absolute fury. Drawing her blade, she snarls that one more insult to her master means war. Park just laughs like a maniac. Summoning a massive spirit, he taunts her. Oh, the little human has fangs. Cute. I am the king here. This is my turf. No matter how hard you flap your wings. A low-level immortal like you is just a bug on my windshield. Crushed by his overwhelming aura, the girl bites her lip in helpless silence. Having made his petty point, Park sighs. Follow me. I have a much faster way to fix your weak stats. He then whips out a highly suspicious item, ordering her to eat it. Staring at the mystery snack, her face screams panic. Trembling, she takes the sketchy offering, terrified it's poison. The 8 treasures life pill. She figured it was just basic trash she didn't even need, at the moment. But honestly, considering his insane alchemy skills, this stuff had to be way better than her usual diet. Popping it in her mouth, she figured it couldn't hurt to be a guinea pig. Just this once. Boom. Her eyes shot wide open. This pill was an absolute masterpiece. It left zero aftertaste, hitting her with a pure energy rush her master's garbage pills never had. Even crazier, her lingering internal wounds vanished instantly, and her power spiked. Flustered, she demanded to know what insane technique Park just used. He casually smirked, claiming it was just top-tier ingredients meeting his godly crafting skills. She should just be grateful. Still, her master was definitely a massive headache to deal with, and Park clearly wasn't planning to use the scepter's unlocking art on her. So he proposed a fake marriage. Outraged, she snapped, asking if he honestly believed her master wouldn't see right through their little act. Park just chuckled. Wouldn't her master want a taste of his? Legendary pills too. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. Park smoothly added that he would keep tossing her these god-tier pills, but she had to cough up the blue void eye first. Thinking back to that ridiculous power-up from earlier, she completely swallowed her pride. Deal accepted. But she had one demand. Since the blue eye was ridiculously rare, he had to tell her before using it. Park practically rolled his eyes, joking that if she ever felt cheated, she could just go cry to her mommy figure master. Pouting, she finally asked what he planned to craft with it. When Park casually replied booze, her jaw absolutely dropped to the floor. Did she just hand a divine treasure to a glorified bartender? Later on, Park was already gulping down the stuff, noticing his standard medicines were losing their kick. The new brew hit way faster, lasted much longer, and packed an incredibly ridiculous punch. Practice makes perfect. It was finally time to brew the real deal using the blue eye. But suddenly, that same girl stumbled in completely wasted and babbling absolute nonsense at him. She whined for more goodies, claiming he promised her. Losing his last shred of patience, Park ordered his lackey to toss her out. This just made the drunk girl explode with rage. How dare he ignore her? She started screaming that her daddy was a top-tier fire chief with a presidential medal. And Park was just some sketchy old man sneaking around. Park froze, totally caught off guard. Well, he had just stumbled into a golden mine of secrets. He definitely needed to milk this juicy information for all it was worth. But first things first, brewing time. A few days later, Park sneaked off into his private forest stash. The spot was perfect, but the ingredients were so dangerously high quality that the heavenly scent might attract those pesky Sioux immortals. Taking a deep breath, he popped the cork. Boom, a blinding aura exploded from the jar. Park smirked, realizing just one sniff was enough to get him buzzing. This wasn't just booze, it was the essence of immortal peaches, supercharged by spirit bee fertilizer, pouring a cup of the glowing nectar. He chuckled, knowing this stuff could drive a cultivator absolutely mad. Suddenly, a chill ran down his spine. He slapped on his mask. An immortal, he hadn't sensed a thing. "Relax, kid," a mysterious voice echoed. "I am just an old-timer sniffing out a good drink." Park's eyes widened behind the mask. He recognized that face. The old geezer grinned, begging for just one tiny sip of that heavenly brew. Park smoothly handed over a cup, and the old man's eyes practically sparkled with pure joy. "What a generous brat," he laughed, taking it eagerly. Wiping his mouth, the elder swore it was the most mind-blowing liquor he had ever tasted in his incredibly long life. Park smirked, reminding the geezer of his own famous words that if he died, he would miss out on booze forever. He also roasted him about his tardy junior. This legendary wanderer had literally sold his soul to Palace Booze and retired in the north, deep in the mountains. He was one of the legendary 8 immortals, a certified dragon slayer who purged evil using the legendary celestial evasion sword. His name Dongbin. Naturally, he was supposed to respectfully greet the brand new ruler of heaven and earth. But instead, this mighty immortal casually tells Park that their old formal agreement was officially tossed out. From now on, they were totally sworn brothers. He claps the main character on the back, asking if he caught the memo. Park just raises an eyebrow. Wait, does not a Dragon King calling him bro break some serious heavenly laws? The old man sweats, admitting the awkwardness. He defends himself, swearing he had zero clue. Park was the new Dragon King at first. That bro zone happened by pure accident. Park smirks and holds up a bottle. He teases that the immortal should appreciate this top-tier liquor. Just one sniff proved it was absolute liquid gold. A literal masterpiece. Flustered, the old man waves his hands, begging the young man to spare him the teasing. He was already dying of embarrassment for bragging about his drinking tolerance. Plus, Park's sarcastic praise was giving him a headache. The immortal grumbles to himself. Sure, they started this partnership just for some magical farming, but now he had to figure out how to balance the heavenly rules. Park chuckles, pointing out that the heavenly bosses would probably throw a massive fit if they caught an immortal treating him like royalty. So to avoid the heavenly HR department, they should just grab the booze and head over to his private sanctuary. The old immortal's eyes light up. Free premium liquor. He instantly agrees that this plan is absolute perfection. He seriously thanks Park for saving his life earlier. Pounding his chest, he promises to be Park's personal backup anytime, anywhere. Park seizes the golden opportunity. Actually, there is one tiny favor. He brings up the celestial evasion sword, an absolutely legendary technique, created by a mysterious ancient master. A guy so obsessed with hunting dragons, he practically turned it into an extreme sport. Even wielding just one blade, this skill defied all logic. It totally shattered the rules of normal martial arts, operating on a completely different level than those basic physical brawlers. It was magic mixed with absolute swagger. And since both of them, they were sword-swinging humans at heart, the match was perfect. With a sly grin, Park boldly demands the immortal to hand over his signature move. Why not, right? Free skills for the taking. Fast forward 2 whole days after they ditched the demonic hideout, a massive, grotesque monstrosity was currently slithering through the wasteland. Hiding inside a crumbling shack, a terrified boy hugs his little brother, whispering desperately that they would survive this nightmare. But the universe has terrible comedic timing. Bam! The hideous beast crashes right through their hiding spot. The older brother instantly jumps in front, ready to be Monster Chow, to save the kid. He squeezes his eyes shut, sobbing as he waits for the end. But suddenly, our overpowered main character drops in. Park lands with a casual thud, eyeing the giant beast like it is premium potting soil. Nice fertilizer, he jokes right before, launching a brutal slash that flattens the creature in one hit. The older boy's jaw hits the floor. Wait, they are not dead. A literal savior just crashed the party. Park smirks, mentally calculating how much farm compost this carcass will make, but suddenly, his radar pings. He spots the two shaking kids in the rubble. The gears turn in his head, and the dark reality hits him like a truck. These children were left here as live monster bait. His laid-back attitude vanishes instantly. Pure, unadulterated rage ignites in his eyes. Right on cue, the pesky monster twitches back to life. It roars in fury, charging like a freight train determined to bite Park's head off. But before it can even bare its teeth, kaboom, a devastating explosion shatters the air, turning the horrific demon into absolute confetti. Deleted from existence in under 3 seconds, the boy who was absolutely sure today was his funeral is losing his mind. He thought all the heroes were dead. But nope. There stands Park, looking insanely cool over the smoking pile of monster parts. A leftover chunk of the beast gasps in sheer disbelief. I just ate you. How are you breathing? Park does not waste breath on trash. He just raises his glowing blade and turns the monster into premium sushi. Slice after brutal slice. Never again, he growls with terrifying coldness. Flash. He completely vanishes. In a heartbeat, Park materializes high in the sky, firing up his new ultimate move. A savage storm of blades rains down, deleting the monster's respawn hopes forever. But instead of posing for victory, Park just looks super annoyed. That flashy celestial evasion skill was still insanely clunky to use. He groans, remembering his torturous training montage. Who teaches a sword art by literally kicking their student off a cliff? Total madness. But hey, it actually worked. And thanks to this monster-infested wasteland, he had the ultimate live-action farming spot. Once the dust settles, the trembling boy steps up, absolutely overflowing with gratitude. Thank you so much, he whispers. Park turns his gaze and drops the question. You kids from the heavenly realm. The kid nods nervously. He admits he rolled a 0 on magical stats, but his bloodline holds the secrets of an ancient shamanic tongue. Suddenly, angry shouts echo through the ruins. A shady squad rolls up aggressively, demanding to know who crashed their sacrifice. But before these villains can even draw their weapons, Park's loyal spirit familiar blitzes them. Park just stands there like a boss, completely unfazed. His mind races back to the boys' tragic words. Their mother was the shaman. And when hell broke loose, the whole city backstabbed her family, tossing them as monster snacks. Uncle got chomped, so his mom played blacksmith to fight back. Sadly, the guards caught on and ruthlessly ended her. Hearing this, Park bites back a curse. Save the village, get stabbed in the back. Classic. He pats the weeping kid and sighs. Dry your eyes, kid. I will absolutely wreck them for this. Fast forward to the present day. The kid and his pet spirit are currently demolishing a random building like absolute pros. Park chuckles at his spirit's sudden brown nosing. Guess the overgrown pet finally realized the massive stat difference now that Park is a literal dragon. Hilariously, the spirit is also playing besties with the bear now. Suddenly the spirit trots back, casually dangling a dude from its jaws. Park squints at the soggy captive. I honestly thought you were some magical fairy or a majestic immortal. Nope, just a nasty monster wearing a cheap human meat suit. Also incredibly stupid. Right on cue, an angry furball interrupts. A very pissed off wolf snarls. Who gave you the VIP pass to our spirit? Turf Park just yawns. He isn't here to play fetch. He is here to brutally collect the karma they owe. The wolf steps back, sweating. You want to die that badly? Skip ahead. Park is now surfing the clouds with his pet invading enemy airspace. Next stop, the wonderfully cursed wastelands of North Korea. A lovely vacation spot where outcast monsters from China and South Korea crash. They made the spirit, gang bossed around by Mr. Tanga. He is an 8th-class divine white tiger who totally overslept for 10 centuries. Cruising above Park spots an absolute circus down below. It is a full-blown messy brawl. Dead bodies everywhere and beasts treating it like an all-you-can-eat buffet. So much for acting human. They dropped the masks for casual cannibalism. Grossed out, Park starts flexing his magic. These guys need a bath, he mocks, casually, tossing a massive spinning tornado at the monsters. They zero. Time to dodge. One goon just stares like a deer in headlights at the incoming cyclone. Park eyes the captive wolf who is crying about not wanting to go on the spin cycle. Park showing zero chill yeets him right into the blender. He deadpans the scene until a huge explosion pops off. Amid the panic, some random mob screams. What the heck? Who is dropping nukes on us? Meanwhile, Park squints. That pesky wolf actually slipped out of the tornado. Floating in the sky, the furry boss fumes, deeply offended that a totally average-looking dude is disrespecting him. But enough chatting. The salty mutt barks, orders for his minions to jump Park. But before they can blink, boom, a literal lightning bolt smacks down, deep frying a goon into extra crispy. The wolf turns back to realize his entire squad got wiped out instantly. Before his dog brain can buffer, two ridiculously massive snakes loom over him. Park smirks and announces, "Time for snake food." He yawns, "Let us rush this. I need a nap." Hey, if you enjoyed this hit, up those comments. Smash that subscribe button for more hilarious and epic manhwa recaps. Catch you in the next adventure.